support for Hamas and more. But not before an odd and frankly scary moment that may have been a serious security breach at the UN building. Jimmy Kimmel returns to the airwaves, but dozens of key ABC stations still refuse to air the program. After what he said last night, I don't think I can blame them. Will ABC continue to go to war for him? And in case you're wondering, left-wing personalities haven't learned anything from the Charlie Kirk murder, as kooky former MSNBC host Keith Olbermann tells conservative commentator Scott Jennings that he's next. And students across the country are facing pushback as they try to start new Turning Point USA chapters at colleges and high schools. But one top state official in Texas is fighting along with those students. Those stories and more as American Sunrise Early Edition begins now.
Welcome to American Sunrise Early Edition, the show where faith, freedom, and the values that built this nation take center stage.
Your good deeds and bad deeds, that's how we're going to judge you.
Join host Jake Novak as he breaks down the stories that matter.
We will be letting the public know regularly what we have found.
American Sunrise Early Edition with your host, Jake Novak, starts now.
Welcome to this Wednesday here in American Sunrise Early Edition. And when I tell you it's been a busy several hours of news, I mean it. There's going to be a lot of stories that you're just going to have to keep and stay tuned here on Real America's Voice all morning and watch the big show, the American Sunrise Show, because there's a lot to get to, including, for example, the guilty verdicts all the way down the line for Ryan Routh, the guy who tried to kill President Trump at the golf course last summer. That's something I'm just only going to be able to mention briefly. And the fact that apparently he tried to kill himself as the verdict was read. I mean, unbelievable stuff. A lot of things going on. But I want to make sure that we spin things forward to things that you can be prepared for going forward. And helping you to do that right now is independent investigative journalist and the guy behind the WC Dispatch on Substack, which everyone should subscribe to and check out. His name is Walter Kurt. And Walter, I want to spin forward things because now we need to take a look at the next stories that are on the horizon, and that is the possibility of a government shutdown. And I could do a whole show, probably once every couple of weeks, about how government shutdowns are no big deal, and people should stop thinking it's the horrible thing that it is. But let's just get to the nitty-gritty first. President Trump decided not to meet with Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, because he said their demands are outrageous. But actually, if they were demanding anything at all, it would be outrageous, because these same two guys just a few months ago were all in favor of just another stopgap spending bill. Keep it going. We'll worry about the stuff later. But now that Trump is president, they have demands. So even if they were demanding a paperclip, you could argue that that would be hypocritical. That would be outrageous. But they are asking for some things like, oh, I don't know, free health care for illegal aliens. I mean, the president's never going to go for that.
Yeah, I saw all their demands. The list is so absurd that beggars belief, really. But I agree with you. You know, I don't care about the shutdown. You know, in fact, I wrote a whole article about talking about just shut it down. I mean, who cares? I mean, like it's such a joke that the media still likes to spin it, and a lot of the mainstream media and a lot of the legacy media likes to still believe as if Americans are going to suddenly lose their minds over a government shutdown. I just don't think we're there anymore. I don't think it has the same sort of effect that it used to. And I think that's possibly because during COVID, the government was shut down anyway, and no one did anything for years. And, you know, nothing burned to the ground. You know, the world didn't end. You know, it seemed like everything moved along just fine without government being involved every single day of every hour. I don't think they have any leverage anyway. What Hakeem and Schumer have? They have no leverage in this scenario. So if I'm President Trump, I wouldn't negotiate with them at all. Let them shut it down.
Yeah. You know, there's another aspect of this, too, that I think people are forgetting. You know, the record highs that the market has been making just about every other day. It was down yesterday, but just a little bit. It's giving President Trump a lot more leverage on a number of things. I notice that every time that the market sets a new all-time high, President Trump comes out with a statement that might hurt one or two businesses. But that's a good time for him to kind of take a higher priority over their profits, because they're at record profits, that they're at record numbers. So I think this is another thing just like that. We've already had months and months and months of a reduced federal workforce because of DOGE and things like that. No one has set themselves on fire or gone crazy over that. So why not allow this the game of chicken to go on? Because literally, in this case, you're not driving over a cliff or having a head-on collision. It's just going to be more of the same. You know, Walter, sometimes the best things about President Trump, I would consider that a blunt thing. This is another blunt thing, is that when he puts these things, blunt truths, into regular language. And he did that yesterday at the UN when he talked to the Europeans about a bunch of things, browbeated them over the fact that they're literally giving money to Russia as they're fighting a war against them. Here's how he said it. Check it out.
China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures.
Yeah, well, so there was a lot of things going on at the UN yesterday. We showed the video at the top of the program where the escalator went out. As soon as I saw that, I thought, is that a security breach? And I decided not to post about it because I thought, like, people are going to think I'm alarmist. But then some people a lot smarter than I am asked the same question. But then, of course, he gave that speech. He told them very bluntly the truth. Boy, they don't want to hear that. And I got to tell you, that entire issue, I was throwing very cold water on this event yesterday. I think the UN General Assembly is like a collection of some of the most evil people in the world. I'm glad that President Trump gave them what for. But honestly, it's a little scary to see all the stuff that we saw yesterday and then to have to say to ourselves, oh, well, that's the UN. I'm not willing to shrug that off anymore.
I'm not either. In my comment yesterday was turn the UN to a homeless shelter. I've been saying that for about 5 years, though, so it's not really that new for me. But just the fact that they decided to be so petty that they're going to shut down the escalator as he comes in and make his wife almost trip, by the way, which is what pissed me off more than anything. I don't know if everybody saw that. Everyone's talking about Trump stopping, but Melania looked like she nearly fell over. But then you continue into it, and then he's right as he gets up for the podium speech, he has to inform the room that his teleprompter is not working. And then what did they think he wasn't going to be able to give the speech without a teleprompter? It's such petty tyrant behavior that it's just it was obnoxious to watch. But what did they do? All they did is they got an additional 40 minutes of Trump freestyling on them, which didn't go well for them at all. It was absurd to watch. And I do agree with the security issue. Someone was talking about the idea of them freezing the target beforehand. I wouldn't want any of our officials anywhere near these people. These people obviously do not like America. They obviously do not care about us. And they obviously have zero, and I mean zero, respect for us. So why on earth should we give them any money? I think we should defund the entire platform. And, maybe we can turn the building into a homeless shelter. Maybe we turn it into a shelter for veterans and put Trump's homeless shelter for veterans on top of it.
Yeah, and they kill parking. I can't stand when you're driving in Manhattan and block after block is only for cars with diplomatic plates. Drives me nuts. All right, Walter, now back to a story that you and I have been really at the forefront of pounding the table on, trying to get everyone to pay more attention to this governor's race in Virginia and the absurdity of Democrat Abigail Spanberger. This is someone who is not a moderate. This is someone who really comes from the far left of the party. Don't know why they decided to back her in a state where they need moderate Democrats, or at least have to pretend that they're moderates. Now, there's mixed news on this front right now. The counties in Virginia that are GOP leaning are absolutely killing it with early voting. They're really outpacing as far as the number of early votes filed and sent in compared to the Democrat counties. So that's very encouraging. But latest poll, and I don't know how reliable these polls are, but I have to tell you that it was published, still has Spanberger 12 points up on Winsome Earl Sears, the Republican. Make this make sense, Walter.
Well, I can make it make sense really easily. That CNU poll is from the Wasson Group, and this is the exact same poll that had Governor Youngkin losing by 10. So it's not necessarily what I would call a reliable poll. Plus, my favorite part about it is if you go through their poll on that, the CNU Group, if you read it, it's hysterical. It shows Governor Glenn Youngkin has a +6 approval rating, but his lieutenant governor is -12. So how is there an 18-point swing between a lieutenant governor and the governor if the governor is popular? That doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, it's a complete nonsense poll. It had Jason Myers down 8 somehow to Jones, which makes no sense. I mean, like every other poll has been. To me, these people, this is just done to try and hurt the Republicans in the upcoming election. That's the only thing that I think of doing. But I actually think it's going to work in the opposite effect. I think that's going to do is it's going to drive more Republicans to the polls, and that it's going to cause apathy for the Democrats. I think you're going to have a Hillary effect. I don't know what Spanberger's doing. I've never seen a candidate that acts like this before. Doesn't respond to any questions. She physically ran away from the camera the other day when Nick Minaka actually asked her a question about the trans stuff. She ran away. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable stuff.
Let's watch it again. Because I showed this soundbite to my viewers yesterday, and there were a lot of them who posted on Getter and Rumble, oh, that can't be real, or I can't believe it. So let's watch it again. I promise you this is real. This is Abigail Spanberger answering a question about the trans issue in schools. Check it out.
Can you tell us directly, do you support biological males who say they're women using women's locker rooms and bathrooms and competing in women's sports?
Well, the circumstance as this legal case plays out is really we've had court cases settled or judged here in Virginia in the 4th District, the former Gavin Grimm case related to bathroom usage. And in fact, the assessment is there needs to be much clearer guidance in terms of what is an executive order's binding assessment of Title IX versus what has been a decision of a court. But ultimately, the real impact here is, once again, it is the Trump administration taking dollars away from Virginia, threatening education dollars to our public schools is an attack on Virginia's kids. It's an attack on our economy. It's an attack on Virginians. And as governor, the important thing, as a candidate for governor, the important priority for me is to ensure that we have the best public schools in the entire country. And the reality is, when we have a president who is coming after Virginia, our education system, whether it's K through 12 or whether it is our public universities, that is harmful to Virginia, our ability to educate our kids, and ultimately our economy.
I mean, what? Walter, this isn't New York or California. How can the Virginia Democrats, who have made their bones for decades in presenting people who they at least say are moderate, put a woman out there like that and give her a script to answer a question like that, which is no answer at all?
That was, I love that clip. And, I hadn't seen it in a couple days because it's just so absurd. Everyone was asking me if she went to, if she was, I was getting calls about this clip saying, did she go to Kamala's school of word salad? I mean, what was that? I mean, it was, yeah. Do we have white Kamala Harris here? Is that what we've got here? And I was like, I think that's what it looks like. I mean, she couldn't answer the question at all. And then shortly after this, she actually runs away. She runs away from the camera and goes running away and has her staffer run interference for her, because that's, what's amazing about this, though, is this was the first time she's been asked a question. First time she's really been asked a question, and that's what comes out of her mouth. So, this is why she's hiding from the media. This is why she doesn't want to have questions. This is why she's having such a late debate. She's hoping people don't find out how radical she is. That's what she's hoping for. That's what she's betting on. She's hoping people don't figure it out until she gets through the race, until she's pretty far into it and early voting's going for a while. But I'll tell you what, I think that we have a real opportunity to win in Virginia, and people need to pay a lot of attention to it, because if we've got this turnout number that's showing up, and I think you've got a real opportunity with all the stuff that happened from Charlie Kirk, that you may be able to really get people energized and get out to the polls. So if we're going to get rid of this woman and make sure she doesn't make it in there, I think we really have a shot.
Yeah, well, I just can't believe that this has gone on without the energy before, and maybe this will happen now. Walter Kirk, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for helping us be on the forefront of the Virginia story. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me on.
All right. When inflation jumps, when you hear that the national debt is over $37 trillion with the T dollars, do you ever think maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? You should. Whether as a hedge against inflation, for peace of mind during global instability, or just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold. And so they created something special. Until September 30th, if you are a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit now. Just text America to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. and you are still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to $10,000. Birch Gold is the only precious metals company I trust, as do their tens of thousands of customers. So make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000. When you buy by September 30th, that's just 6 days away. Text America to 989898, claim your eligibility, and get your free info kit. Again, text America to 989898. Coming up, Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air, but he also isn't. I'll explain all that, and Emily Finn will help me when American Sunrise Early Edition comes right back.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
My name is Phoebe, and I live in Florida. I love Real America's Voice. They truly speak for the people, and that's what real patriotism is all about.
Hello, all you Ravagers. I'm Billy Howell, your old buddy Carefree Largo from the chat, and I'm thrilled to be part of the Rav family. When I want to be heard, I use my Real America's Voice.
My name is Tina, and I'm in Dallas, Texas. I'm so grateful to be able to get my news from an organization like Real America's Voice, whose conservative values align with my own.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
A live look at the White House. That's the opposite side that we usually show here on Real America's Voice, so check that out. Hey, welcome back, everyone. I'm sure none of you watched it last night, and kudos to you for not. Jimmy Kimmel came back on the air last night, although he kind of didn't, because about 60 ABC stations didn't air it, the ones that are owned by Nexstar and Sinclair, still not willing to air the show. I'm going to give you a quick recap of what he said. He didn't really apologize. He said, however, the closest thing he said is that he didn't mean to make light of a young man's death. Well, no one accused him of that. No one was saying that he was making fun of the death. What we were saying is that he was attacking the people who were grieving, including close friends of his, and saying that they were the ones responsible for his death. That was a joke? I know he wasn't trying to make a joke out of it, because that wasn't a joke. And Emily Finn, we bring in Real America's voice contributor, Emily Finn. Emily, listen, we know how these things go. That wasn't an ad lib. You know how many times a joke or a comment on a late night TV show gets edited and vetted, and they go through it over and over before it's put in the teleprompter? It wasn't an ad lib. It wasn't a mistake. It was meant to be an attack. And if you're a sponsor thinking about sponsoring this show anywhere in America right now, I don't see how you stick with this guy, Emily.
Absolutely not. And I don't think that, Jimmy Kimmel, it's not just this show. We are showing pictures of him hosting award shows. People are just going to distance themselves from this guy, just like Nexstar and Sinclair are doing. His show may be back on air for now, but this is going to be a business problem for ABC moving forward. And they're going to have to address why, on these local stations, this show isn't airing. They're going to replace him eventually if this continues to happen.
Yeah, Emily, unlike you, who is a superstar and you went right to national news, I spent years working at local affiliates like this, like in Bangor, Maine, and in Decatur, Illinois. And let me tell you something. Back then in the 90s, even without social media or really the internet as competition, the salespeople at those stations had a very difficult job. I really admired them. They got doors slammed in their face all the time. They had to knock on doors of these small businesses. I can only imagine how hard it is for them now. By the way, both those stations I worked at were ABC affiliates, at least back then. I think one of them has switched. But I'm telling you, it can't be easy. I mean, you're knocking on your local auto parts guy, and he's like, listen, you want me to put money not only for that show, but for your station when you're airing this guy? I can't do it. I feel really sorry for them.
Well, you know, the people in those local communities, if getting news coverage in their local community gets better ratings than Jimmy Kimmel, I think he only gets like 26,000 a night. I mean, it's quite embarrassing for him. People have been posting on social media saying, can this photo of a hot dog get more views than Jimmy Kimmel? Yeah. And usually it does every single time. So this, at the end of the day, is just going to be a business decision. You know, I think he could have went further in his apology, can you even call it that, of what he said about Charlie Kirk. And hopefully he doubles down and says, yes, this was wrong, and doesn't continue to promote violence.
Yeah, I can't, you know, I'm going to try to find a local salesperson. I don't know if they'd be willing to come on the air and just talk about what they're dealing with right now, because it'd be really interesting. I don't know, maybe just to talk to them for 1 second, put the video on here on this program. Emily Finn, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in the 8 to 10 a.m. hour.
Thank you, Jake.
Hey, cryptocurrency continues to gain traction with major announcements this week. Trump Media Group signed a $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com. That's the world's leading crypto platform. The companies are joining forces to buy up to $6.4 billion of the cryptocurrency CRO, that's what it's called, to launch America's first CRO treasury. Upon completion, the newly formed company will be the world's largest holder of CRO. To buy CRO, visit Crypto.com today. All right, coming up, getting back to the TV business, there's something every mainstream media outlet reporting on the H-1B visa story isn't telling America, but I'm going to tell you, and it's a crucial thing. That story and Moving America coming up next when American Sunrise Early Edition comes right back.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rav has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rav. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rav.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
My name is Tina, and I'm in Dallas, Texas. I'm so grateful to be able to get my news from an organization like Real America's Voice, whose conservative values align with my own.
Hey, y'all. It's Nancy from Texas. Real America's Voice gives us truth, not propaganda, and we need that. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Kelly Renee from Northern California Hills, MAGA country. The reason I watch Real America's Voice is for the faith, the family, and the freedom. Giddy up!
This is Diane from Rhode Island. Why do I love Real America's Voice? Because they deliver us facts from hosts who love America and love God. What's not to like?
Hazing morning here in New York, second day of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. I'm rushing out to services after I do my hit at 9:20. I am well fed despite juggling doing this during the holiday. Let's take a look at where the markets will begin today. A muted start, but a green start for all the major indices. Actually, the NASDAQ has a decent gain, 1/3%. That's not bad. Look at crude oil, though, back up to the $64 a barrel level. That's still cheap, but that's it's been pretty much that high point the last few weeks. Now let's look at Bitcoin really quickly. Bitcoin's been struggling last couple of weeks, and it's at 113. So up this morning, but again, about 10,000 off of its all-time highs. Hey, economic doom and gloom is canceled for now. The Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD, for some reason that's a very well-respected outfit, they are revising upward their economic outlook for the entire world. But it's really all about the United States. They say that the United States, their economic performance so far this year has been better than expected, and so they need to revise upward their expectations for the economy. So in other words, the end of the world, the recession, the depression is not coming like the mainstream media wants you to believe. Of course, now I'm going to have to knock on all the doors of my neighbors and tell them that I'm not going to resort to cannibalism like I told them last week. That's going to be awkward. Thanks a lot, OECD, for making me scared. Okay, I'm just kidding. But honestly, stop with the doom and gloom. Usually gold goes up when economic fears are rising. But as I just showed you there, we're almost at $3,800 an ounce for gold, and we did cross the $3,800 threshold just yesterday and the day before. Now, the economic forecast is better, but gold is still going up, and that's probably because of the Fed lowering interest rates. And when you have lower interest rates, the dollar kind of usually loses its value a little bit, so the gold has to go up because you need more dollars to buy the same amount of gold. But gold has been a pretty good investment this year, to say the least, at these all-time highs, so make sure you pay attention to that. I want to make sure everyone understands this. All the mainstream media outlets that are reporting that H-1B visa fee that President Trump has slapped on any company that hires an H-1B visa foreigner has to pay $100,000 a year. And that's pretty hefty. They're all reporting on it. They're talking about, again, that's a doom and gloom story for them. They're talking about how this is terrible, terrible, terrible. They all are making an ethical violation, in my opinion. I've worked at these mainstream media outlets, and let me tell you something. About 10 years or so ago, all of them brought in a massive number of H-1B visa workers, most of them from South Asia, to run the back offices of their websites and some of the other technical aspects of their television news operations, mostly the website stuff, which was all working fine without them. It wasn't like there were no Americans who could run these websites. I was working at one particular mainstream news media outlet that had a very strong website. It was doing extremely well. In fact, even though I was running shows, I had an editorial column on one that shot to #1 every day. I never had any technical problems with it. Suddenly they undermined the American workers and brought in these cheap H-1B visa workers. This is not what H-1B visa was meant to do. And any news organization, CNN, the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, all of them who cover this need to have a disclosure and say, oh, by the way, we did this too. We're doing it now. And they should have that in little italics at the bottom or beginning of a story. They won't do it, so I'll do it for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Moving America, sponsored by Artillery Tea Company, artilleryteaco.com. Use promo code LIBERTY for 20% off your order. Artillery Tea is all natural, whole leaf. The tea bags are chemical-free, and each tea bag can be used twice. Artillery Tea Company is family and veteran-owned and operated, and a portion of your purchase goes to help veteran and first responder charities. Artilleryteaco.com, promo code LIBERTY for 20% off of your order. The latest International Institute of Highway Safety report on rear passenger safety has some good news and bad news for most American-made vehicles. Now, the good news is that American-made SUVs are really safe for the folks who sit in the back seats, the back rows, usually kids and stuff like that. Those are pretty safe vehicles if there's a rear-end collision or something like that. The bad news is that almost no Detroit minivans or pickup trucks got anything close to a good rating for rear passenger safety. Now, the pickup truck I get that. But minivans, which a lot of people buy thinking that's the safest option for a family with a lot of kids, that's really a tough situation for them to have to deal with this morning. The fact that it's much safer to go with an SUV. Hey, look, I'm one of those guys who wasn't intimidated by a minivan. I had one for years. Didn't make me feel insecure in my manhood. But I have to say, when I switched over to the Toyota Highlander midsize SUV, that was a better car. But I got to tell you, I did not realize that it's actually safer to use the SUV. So anyway, the IIHS is continuing to recommend the back seat is the safest place for kids to ride in most vehicles. But, Chrysler, Pacifica, and all those other American-made minivans need to work on that. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, AutoZone gave us a very interesting economics lesson yesterday. AutoZone, I love those auto parts stores, by the way. It's one of the few places that you can go to in America where you still get really great customer service. That's true of all of them. AutoZone, there's a ton of them. Pep Boys, stuff like that. But now they had better same-store sales at AutoZone during the middle 3 months of the year, April through June. That's the good news. The bad news is their profits still went down. So you know what that means. That means their costs are up. If they're making more sales, but their profits are down, that means their costs are up, and that's an inflation red flag. The markets didn't like it. Their stock went down 4 or 5% yesterday, but if they get more reports like that from other companies, expect some issues there. Again, be nice if their interest rates were lower. That would cover and cut a lot of their costs, things that they have to borrow. So we'll see if that spurs a little bit more interest rate cutting in the coming months. Another one bites the dust. The Jeep Gladiator pickup 4xe was supposed to be a plug-in hybrid next year. They're getting rid of that. They're not going to do that now. Now it will only be a gas-powered engine. As you know, I am collecting these decisions to move away from EVs and plug-in hybrids like a 14-point buck that I would collect at a hunting lodge. This is like a trophy on my wall, folks. I don't like EVs. I'm sorry, I just don't. Especially for something like a pickup. You want to buy an EV sedan or something like that? Great, go for it. And I'm certainly not infringing on your right to do so. I just don't think it's a good look for Jeep or Ford pickups to be EV. That's my opinion. You can bash me on the chat if you don't agree. All right. This story actually does make me sad, however. The man known as the father of the Mazda Miata has passed away. His name is Tom Matano. He was born in Nagasaki in 1947. By the way, editorial note, can you imagine what it was like to be born in Nagasaki in 1947? Less than 2 years after the A-bomb went off over that town. But anyway, that's another story. He became a designer for Mazda, and he was the top mind behind the creation of the Miata. Now, Tom was a hero to Miata enthusiasts because not only was he the designer, but he used to show up at those Miata conventions and do online appearances. They loved him. I know I've bashed the Miata on this program as a chick car. It is a chick car, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, but it's a chick car. But hey, it's a cute car, and Tom Matano, great guy, and it was really fun to listen to and watch. We're going to miss him, and it's a cute car. What can I tell you? All right, coming up, if you think Turning Point USA doesn't face discrimination, and even in red states, you're in for a rude awakening. But there is good news on this front, and we're about to hear about it live from the state of Texas. American Sunrise Early Edition. We'll be right back.
Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rav has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rav. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rav.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
My name is Tina, and I'm in Dallas, Texas. I'm so grateful to be able to get my news from an organization like Real America's Voice, whose conservative values align with my own.
Hey, y'all. It's Nancy from Texas. Real America's Voice gives us truth, not propaganda, and we need that. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Kelly Renee from Northern California Hills, MAGA country. The reason I watch Real America's Voice is for the faith, the family, and the freedom. Giddy up!
This is Diane from Rhode Island. Why do I love Real America's Voice? Because they deliver us facts from hosts who love America and love God. What's not to like?
It's Wednesday, September 24th. Here are this morning's top stories. No dice. President Trump cancels a budget bargaining meeting with the top congressional Democrats. He says it's because their demands are just outrageous. A government shutdown now looks a lot more likely. Oh no. But President Trump did have something to say to the folks at the UN, warning them about their open borders, their support for Hamas, and their other nonsense. But this was not before an odd and frankly scary moment that may have been a serious security breach. Jimmy Kimmel returns to the airwaves, but dozens of key ABC stations still refuse to air the program. How long will ABC continue to go to war for this guy? And students across the country, even in Texas, are facing pushback as they try to start new Turning Point USA chapters at colleges and high schools. But one top state official in Texas is going along in the fight with them now, and that may change everything. American Sunrise Early Edition continues now. Welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition. I'm Jake Novak. Thank you so much for joining us, and a special thank you to everyone on the Getter chat, the Rumble chat, commenting also on X and Substack. A lot of places you can watch, and you can comment on all of them, and I actually read them. And a lot of times I learn from the stuff that you're saying, so please keep it up. Hey, I want to get right to this story out of Texas, because I think a lot of people would have been surprised if I had told you today, tomorrow, a week ago, that there is a group of students in Texas that are trying to start a new Turning Point USA chapter, and they're getting pushback. What? Are you kidding me? Joining us right now is Tom Slocum. He's been a statewide candidate in Texas for office. He's a Republican strategist. Tom, what the heck is going on? This is in the Houston area. Is that correct?
Yes. This is on the west part of Houston, one of the most Republican parts of town. And we thought we would get pushback in other parts of the county, of course, but not in Republican-heavy House District 133, Spring Branch ISD. What Republicans did is we stood up with these kids. But what Democrats did is they actually went after these poor teachers and these students in Spring Branch ISD. And it's absolutely disgusting and despicable, especially in the light of the assassination of our beloved Charlie Kirk. And any Republican not calling them out right now, calling the Democrats out for what they're doing, is complicit. There's a whole bunch of them that aren't speaking out, and I don't understand it. Jake, right now, millions are mourning, millions of students and millions of people around the world, but especially students are mourning Charlie's death across the country and wanting to do everything they can to organize to save America and bring people back to God. For Charlie, a man that can no longer speak. And here we have these demon-possessed zombies, these anti-American Democrats. They want to get in the way and stop these young patriotic Americans from exercising their right to assemble and their freedom of speech. And look, we're opening 120,000 chapters of TPUSA students, which is Club America, to spread the word and about how great our country actually is. We know Charlie loved America, and so do we, and so does Ken Paxton, and he is the only statewide elected official in Texas that spoke out immediately and said, "Kids, I am here for you. Jack Robertson, I am here for you. The kids in Spring Branch ISD, you're going to get your chapter." He's holding an event today here in Houston that's going to be packed solid. We're expecting around 200 students and 100 local patriots. It's going to pack out the ballroom, maximum capacity at the hotel. And it's to honor Charlie Kirk and the formation of Club America at Stratford High School. So this was Stratford High School inside Spring Branch ISD in Houston, Texas. And Jack Robertson, he is a standout student. And one of these evil Democrat witches, in particular, the vice president of the Spring Branch Democrats, Natalie Herpin, who, surprise, she voted in the Texas Republican primary, Jake. And I know you and I have talked a lot about closing primaries, but this is one reason we need to. Wouldn't it be very strange if the president or the vice president of the Spring Branch Democrats was a registered Republican? Wouldn't it kind of expose their whole game? And that's why rhinos in Texas have been fighting me and been fighting all the other patriots, the grassroots here that want these primaries closed. These Democrats that cross over are the exact types who come and vote in our primaries for rhinos and Republican-like candidates like Morano de Isla against conservatives like John Perez. It happened here in Houston in House District 133 last cycle, Jake. And it must end. And God bless Attorney General Paxton for acting, like I said, when no one else would. That's an embarrassing moment to be a Republican in Texas when you only have one statewide elected official standing up for kids that deserve the right. And by the way, I have to let you know, Brian Harrison is also doing an excellent job standing up against the machine when no one else will at Texas A&M. That's a separate story, Jake, but I have to mention that gig of Maggie's because General Mark Welsh is no longer there promoting DEI and all the woke nonsense that the left has installed in that university. And the Karl Rove types rolled over and let happen. And the same Karl Rove types, wouldn't stand up for the children. The members of the Spring Branch ISD school board, they sat there on their hands until General Paxton acted. And that's why he's going to be here tonight, to show these kids that he cares. And I'm going to be there, Jake. I'll be filming it, and hopefully I can get you some footage. But it's crazy what's going on here in Houston, and I know that you've got your own thoughts on it as well. And it's something that we need to talk about more about here on Real America's Voice, because I know this isn't the only place in America where this has happened yet. It's happened already, and we know it'll happen in the future. This is just straight out of the playbook for the Democrats on how to stifle freedom of speech for conservatives, particularly young voices, which Donald Trump has done much better at. And so all they can do is try to silence this, Jake, and silence these kids. And we're not going to stand for it.
Yeah, a big part of what I try to do in this program is preemption. Anticipating what the Democrats and the left are going to say, or weak-minded Republicans are going to say about a particular incident, and immediately go after it before they can even say it. So here's what they're going to say, Tom, and everyone watching. They're going to say, "Oh, well, it's not about Charlie Kirk or TPUSA. It's because we're not so comfortable with very politicized groups inside high schools. Maybe we should keep and that is a lie. If these kids were forming a pro-environment group or a group about some other civil rights issue, they would be applauded. They would be applauded.
That's right. And I have to say something. I have to say something else, Jake. It's very important for people to know. They should be holding this event tonight on school property at the stadium or the gymnasium, where they can fit a lot more people than a small hotel conference room. And these kids were told, from what I understand, told by members of the school board and others, or the leadership of the school, that, you can't do something like this on campus. Now, if that's not true, I would love to hear otherwise. But as of a few days ago, when we were looking to host this event, there was no school board member coming forward saying, hey, let's go hold it right here on school property where they belong with all their friends. And maybe their friends might want to come, and be able to invite everyone in the school if they want to come. But instead, we're being forced to go to an off-campus location where we have a limited capacity and where we have limited parking, and it's not convenient. So it's not fair straight out of the gate. And any of these school board members, Chris Ernest or Lisa Alpe, or any of these people listening right now who are probably going to try to smear me for doing this segment, by the way, Jake, they need to know that it's their responsibility to actually be leaders and stand up for these students and allow them to do this on campus, allow them to hold huge events with hundreds, if not thousands of students, if they all want to come on campus. And there's nothing that they can do to stop it. And we know that they're in bed with the teachers union because we saw what they did with Morano de Isla. We saw when they brought over 3,000 votes to make sure he won. That's State Representative Morano de Isla, who's totally in bed. They canceled the Democrat primary in HD 133, just like they did in Dade Phelan's House District 21. And they do it to control everything from head to toe, from the top of the offices all the way down to the school board. They want their hands on all of it. They don't want conservatives. They don't want America First, Trump-loving Republicans to ever take over their precious school board, who they think should be governed by Democrats and influenced by Democrats, and allow fear and intimidation by Democrats and then not call it out. That's the worst part. They actually won't call out the Democrats, and they won't because they rely on them to get elected, Jake. That's why.
Well, Yeah, this is one of the things that I notice in almost every organization, especially after it gets strong. And this is true of political parties, it's true of charities, it's true of other organizations. They start getting interested in doing what's right for their older and more powerful members. If you're a Republican in Texas and you're not going to go to bat for young people, ask yourself why. Is it because you're uncomfortable with high school students being political? Oh, that's crazy. Or is it because maybe you're worried it's a new generation that's going to move things away from the things that you're focusing on? I'm sorry, folks, but you're going to have to do that. That's not even only about, not just about politics. It's also just about being a parent. At some point, you got to say, this is for the next generation, not about me. This is why unions have collapsed in this country. They're all about their older and retired members. And they don't, and this is even true of the UAW. I'm going off the topic just a little bit, but the point being, unless you're willing to go to bat for new young people joining a movement, your movement's going to die. So you got to be there for them. So I'm glad you're doing this for them tonight. And tell us about how Attorney General Paxton is. I mean, is he going to just speak, or is he doing something legislatively or legally?
Well, he has an investigation, actually, and that's another reason. Look, Chris Ernest had to make a statement yesterday. He made this long-winded statement attacking Texas Scorecard, saying that they were incorrect. Well, I've got news for you, Chris Ernest. The two sponsors that were supposed to be the sponsors for this group that were intimidated by Natalie Herpin and her friends, they are not the now sponsors, okay? We had to go find two new sponsors because the previous two were successfully victims of being intimidated by the Democrats, right? They were successfully intimidated. What the Democrats did was successful. And they don't want to talk about that. They want to pretend like, oh, everything's okay. We have sponsors for Club America chapter now. Don't worry, folks. We have it under control. No, you don't have it under control. You don't have Natalie Herpin under control. Her and her friends are voting in the Republican primary. And if you call yourself a Republican, Chris Ernest and Lisa Alpe, you should have a problem with that. You shouldn't want a bunch of Democrats voting in your primary. But they do, because that's the only way they get elected to offices. That's the only way Morano gets elected. That's the only way Dave Phelan gets elected. That's the only way they hold any kind of power at all, is with the Democrat vote. The same way the Speaker of the House, they held on to that for so long through Dave Phelan and all these other yo-yos running around like Dustin Burrows, who relied on Democrat votes to be Speaker. I'm sorry, it's the truth. You know, I mean, we've had a slightly more conservative session of text ledge since he took over, but it wasn't by leaps and bounds, and they wasted a lot of time, and they didn't do what they should have done during regular session. So there's a lot of hurdles we have in Texas. We have deep red districts that are being held by rhinos because they canceled the Democrat primary, and they have all their teachers union, retired teachers, 3,000 of them plus, come and vote in our Republican primary. This is why we have to close the primaries in Texas. We're in the process of doing it. There's a way to do it, and we're going through it right now. There's already been a lawsuit filed in Amarillo court, I believe. And so we're well on our way, Jake. And the next time I come on Real America's Voice, I really pray that I'm here to talk about how we have the primaries closed. But it's going to have to go through the judicial system. It's probably going to take a while. But when it does, we're going to have huge impacts. But people need to know, look, Charlie Kirk wasn't killed because he spoke. He was killed because youth around the world listened to him. Just like this sign says. And we're going to have lots of these signs tonight at the rally with Attorney General Ken Paxton. And let me tell you, he is going to whip John Cornyn's butt in this race. John Cornyn still is running away from Donald Trump. You know, it's amazing what the people that work for John Cornyn will tell you. They're mad about the Donald Trump protesters from the left showing up at their office. They go out there and tell them, hey, John Cornyn's not Donald Trump. We're more like you. I don't know why are you here protesting John Cornyn? That's literally what the people who work for John Cornyn in his Houston office told me yesterday, word for word, Jake. Okay, so John Cornyn hates Donald Trump. All right, man.
Tom, I got to jump.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Good luck for the event tonight, and please send me that footage, and just keep the fight going. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jake. You have a good one.
All right. Coming up with all the intense news lately, you probably missed some of the outrageous things coming out of Kamala Harris's book. David Brody and I have some things you really need to hear to get the truth out. We'll be right back with that.
This Sunday, Real America's Voice pauses to honor a patriot whose voice carried a movement. Rev presents Charlie Kirk, a legacy remembered.
We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
From campuses to the national stage, Charlie inspired millions to stand boldly for faith, freedom, and country. Now, we reflect on his life, his mission, and the legacy he leaves behind.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done.
When America needed a hero, God sent us a Charlie Kirk.
Hosted by Steve Bannon, live coverage of Charlie Kirk's funeral service begins at 10 a.m. Eastern. Join us as we remember a life that will never be forgotten, only on Real America's Voice.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
This is Tim King, also known as USS Malik, and I love Real America's Voices for its like-minded programming and the chat. Love you guys.
I'm Andy M., and I love Real America's Voice, where my voice counts and your voice counts. That is America's Voice.
That's a live look at Cincinnati, Ohio, and that's actually not rain. It's the tears of the Bengals fans as Joe Burrow is injured again, and they are a terrible team without him. No, it actually is raining. Sorry about that, Bengals fans. I really am. It's one of those teams where I wouldn't mind if they did a little better. I certainly rooted for them in the Super Bowl 3-4 years ago. Welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition. I'm Jake Novak. Joining us right now is David Brody. You are absolutely excused. I will write you an excuse, a doctor's note, for all of you missing some of the crazy things coming out of Kamala Harris in the last few days, because we've had more important news to talk about. But I actually think some of the things she says are important because they tell you the truth about the Democratic Party and the way that they think about things. I'm just going to focus on two of the things. First is she reveals in her book that she called California Governor Gavin Newsom for help and advice when she was named the nominee to replace Joe Biden last year. He told her, "Hey, Kamala, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of a hike right now. I'll get back to you." And he never did. That just goes to show one thing. There's not a lot of teeth. So that's one part. But the thing that I think is really interesting, she goes in the book all about how she would rather have chosen Pete Buttigieg, who was then the transportation secretary, for her running mate. But basically she said she couldn't do it because he was gay. Now that's the Democrats saying that. Meanwhile, we have President Trump, by the way, who was appointed an openly gay man and Scott Bessent to the highest position anyone from that persuasion has ever had as a Treasury Secretary. So let's get this straight. A Republican has put in into a very powerful position a person because of his abilities and not really made any concern about their sexual orientation, whereas the Democrat decided not to hire someone because of their sexual orientation. Am I getting that right, David Brody? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
You are getting that right. There's so much to unpack here. I know we have a limited amount of time, but I guess we'll just stay on the Buttigieg stuff. So, first of all, she's on with Rachel Maddow. I mean, where is the outrage and pushback by Maddow and everybody else saying, wait a minute, you passed over a gay man, and you're basically saying he couldn't win in America? There's so many things to unpack. Like that is not principled at all. You talk about being a champion for gay rights, and then you decide, you're not going to do the ultimate move. It just shows you what a hypocrite she is. And quite frankly, to me, the whole book just revealed one big truth, which is Kamala Harris knows that she's got no chance ever again in American politics. And I'm telling you, she wouldn't have written that book if she knew she had a shot, because you don't burn bridges in this business. You just don't. And she burned every single one of them in that book. And by the way, with Gavin Newsom, okay, so you sent him a text and he didn't get back to you. I don't know. You're kind of friends with him. You are BFFs to a degree. Could you pick up the phone and say, hey, Gavin, what's going on? You back from hiking? I mean, the whole thing I'm making, it's all stupid. It's all ridiculous.
Yeah, really, a terrible ad for the Democratic Party, that whole book. Check it out. We'll see you again tomorrow.
American Sunrise is a great way to start your morning. Join us Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We've got the news of the day and some compelling interviews that you don't want to miss. Here's what you missed from yesterday.
President Trump takes the world stage in about 2 hours. Yeah, this isn't where he wants to be today. It always cracks me up. He always just looks like a little bit of a frustrated, somebody being put upon when he's there and annoyed the whole entire time. It's a real contrast to see him in that element as opposed to other elements. What are your expectations?
The meetings that he's going to have with these Arab leaders is significant. What is the Arab world going to do with Gaza? Israel has every right to live in peace with its neighbors. They have every right to finish off Hamas, and now the rebuilding will begin soon. And I think this is one of the things that President Trump is going to be concentrating on. How will the Arab world help in rebuilding with some sane, responsible leadership in that region that can be good neighbors for Israel?
These countries talking about a Palestinian state. Let me get this straight. Hamas does what they did on October 7th, and here's an idea. Let's reward them with a Palestinian state. What in the world? What will he do? What do you think he'll say?
Our president loves to go into a forum like this and just speak truth to, I would say, power, but there's no power in this. There's more power in a lawnmower than in all of the United Nations put together. It is the ultimate form of hypocrisy. All they have done is empower Hamas. They have shut down any way to deliver some kind of issue with the impasse of financial consideration between Israel and Palestinian Authority. And what they've done, they've emboldened Israel to begin thinking about declaring sovereignty over greater parts of Judea and Samaria. So whatever they thought they were going to do, I have a feeling it is actually resulting in the polar opposite of it.
NATO's latest mission, which is banning words. NATO has now banned the word airmen. They want it replaced with Air Force personnel. Also out, servicemen, guardsmen, even the phrase, my guys. The new terms that are acceptable to replace them with are service member, guard, and team. Even the phrase manning, you now have to say staffing instead.
Oh, man. Oh, I guess I'm already off kilter because I just said that, right? I can't say, oh, man. I guess I have to say, oh, people. Or,
team. That's crazy.
Yeah, oh, team. Like, really? Aren't there bigger issues that we need to be addressing?
Well, there's definitely an awakening. There is a stirring. You wonder what happens next, though, and where does this go?
God knows how to take what Satan meant for the worst, to destroy, to crush, to depress, and turn it really for his glory, which is a miracle in itself.
This Sunday, Real America's Voice pauses to honor a patriot whose voice carried a movement. Rav presents Charlie Kirk, A Legacy Remembered.
We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
From campuses to the national stage, Charlie inspired millions to stand boldly for faith, freedom, and country. Now, we reflect on his life, his mission, and the legacy he leaves behind.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done.
When America needed a hero, God sent us a Charlie Kirk.
Hosted by Steve Bannon, live coverage of Charlie Kirk's funeral service begins at 10 a.m. Eastern. Join us as we remember a life that will never be forgotten, only on Real America's Voice.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
This is Tim King, also known as USS Malik, and I love Real America's Voices for its like-minded programming and the chat. Love you guys.
I'm Andy M., and I love Real America's Voice, where my voice counts and your voice counts. That is America's Voice.
Just ahead on American Sunrise, President Trump showed American strength at the UN General Assembly and put the world on notice. How was the message received? We're going to take a look at that. Plus, Jimmy Kimmel returned to hosting his show last night after his brief suspension following his remarks about Charlie Kirk's assassination, but some ABC affiliates decided to keep Kimmel off the air. He said Jesus for the first time ever on his show. The details just ahead. Finally, I recently had the chance to sit down with Eric Trump for a wide-ranging interview, from his new book to the importance of faith in his life and his family. He'll be here along with so much more as American Sunrise starts right now.
Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
we have breaking news to share with you.
Politics.
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
We've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrence.
And I'm Dr. Gina.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Gina. We are live with you from the Palm Beaches. Let's bring in David Brody. He's in Washington, D.C., and T. Bates in our Denver newsroom. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Madame, good morning, sir. Good morning to you as well, David. Hey, guys, so look, let's just get right to the bizarre court hearing that was yesterday in Florida. The man accused of, well, now he's convicted of trying to kill and assassinate President Trump. He was then, of course, a presidential candidate, was found guilty of all charges. He even tried to stab himself in the neck immediately after the verdict was read. His sentencing is now set for December. He faces up to life in prison. By the way, we're seeing the picture here, but guys, I refuse to say the name of suspects like this just because I don't want to give them any more notoriety. Unless the name is Jermaine, I'm just not going to say his name. That's just my choice. And so if you're wondering, well, why does Terrence never say it? That is why.
Well,
anyway, David,
it's all right,
that was
Terrence.
my quick soapbox.
It's actually right there, and most of our audience can read. So
I know it is. I know it's right there, but my perspective, if you ever wonder, well, why does Terrence never say the name? Well, that is why. That is why. Anyway, go ahead, David.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. First of all, his daughter yelled out to him, he tried to stab himself in the neck with a pen, and his daughter said, don't do it, don't do it. Look, there's a couple of things. Here's a little pro tip for you. Don't defend yourself in court, especially if you're this guy. But beyond all of that, is it just me, or did this trial not get the publicity that it probably deserved? I don't know, Gina. What do you think about that? I mean, remember, this is a guy that's going to be sentenced to life in prison. He tried to kill the president of the United States. I'm just thinking back in the 70s or 80s, if this was Reagan or Nixon or whoever, or definitely Obama, wouldn't this get huge attention? I just feel like it didn't get as much as, people were covering it, but I'm not sure if it went to the next level. I don't know.
It's interesting you say that, yeah, because I was flipping around, as I love to do, to all the liberal networks to see if they were covering it or to see what they were talking about. And I noticed, MSNBC was talking about something really weird and offbeat, and I kind of gave a funny look to my friend who was there, why are they talking about this? And he said, oh, they're trying to avoid talking about the assassination case that was in court today. And, that's absolutely true, David. I think it's a great observation. We've become very callous. We've become very callous.
Yes.
I think it's sad, but I'll tell you what, Jimmy Kimmel said the word Jesus last night, and I don't think that's ever happened before, and that is the Charlie Kirk effect. So there's that. Some good things are happening, too, is my point.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll, of course, continue to talk about this story, guys. In fact, I'll have a story including President Trump's reaction to that verdict. That's coming up probably in about 15 minutes or so. But, Dr. Gina, would you give us our Bible verse, please?
I'd love to do that, T. Psalm 16:8 says, I have set the Lord always before me because he is at my right hand. I shall not be moved. President Trump addressed the United Nations General Assembly, but with some technical issues that arose with, the escalator and the teleprompter. Here's what President Trump had to say about it.
All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now.
And some ugly green marble behind him. And for the record, Joe Biden wouldn't have made it up that escalator, I'm telling you. For more, let's bring in RAV Chief White House Correspondent Brian Glenn. Brian, Joe Biden would have never made it up that escalator. I think that's important to point out. What would that have looked like? I keep trying to imagine. Would he have walked back down the escalator? Would he have just stopped and waited for someone to carry him off? Would he have tried to make it up and stopped a bunch of times? What's your over-under on all that?
The over-under is he would have looked for an elevator to go up. There's no way he would have walked up those stairs, and I don't think it's any coincidence that the escalator and the teleprompter went out. And we were talking offline before the show. This could have turned out to be a very dangerous situation. If you've ever been on an escalator and it stopped, or even going down or up, you lose your balance. All it takes is one person to fall back, and everyone behind them is going down as well. So whatever prank that someone at the UN decided to pull, I think that should be investigated, because that could have been a very dangerous situation.
Well, there's no doubt about that. All right. I am curious. I want to get to Jimmy Kimmel here and talk about that, but I do want to get your take on what the president said there at the United Nations yesterday. I mean, he said your countries are going to hell. I mean, and you know, the fact that the prompter wasn't working, he was only supposed to speak 15 minutes because the prompter wasn't working. He was in ad-lib mode and he went 55. So take that.
You gotta love him sometimes.
He did. We knew he was going to go 4 to 5 times over the allotted time. We knew that was going to happen. Look, it wasn't the speech they wanted to hear, but it was the speech they needed to hear. Everything from climate change to immigration to funding the wars and really putting an end to some of these escalations around the world. So I thought it was a blazing speech. I love the humor. He even threw in a little bit of, hey, I put a bid to redo the UN years ago of $500 million guaranteed on time, best materials. They didn't take that bid. They went to another bid that cost billions of dollars with overruns, and the quality was not quite up to scale to what President Trump would do. But I think it was a speech they needed to hear. And as far as someone sitting back and watching it, I have got to give them a 10 out of 10 on that speech. I thought it was great standing up for this country.
Brian, let's shift to what's happening there in Washington, D.C. This time next week, it looks like we're probably going to have a partial government shutdown. President Trump initially said that he was going to meet with Democratic leaders to discuss potential options on ways to move forward. Now we're hearing that he has canceled that meeting. What is the perception there? What's the atmosphere like at the White House in terms of how to move past this? What's going to happen next?
Yeah, we're 7 days away from a potential government shutdown. And as of last night, Schumer and Thune have not spoken about this on the phone, in person, any type of conversation on this. So this is kind of building up to what we've seen before, maybe one of these last minute, last hour negotiations deal to get the government temporarily funded until around Thanksgiving. But, it's what you can expect out of Congress right now. I'm very disappointed in the fact that we're not in session right now. We're not working on some of the executive orders and some of the bills that need to be passed in order to secure America financially. There's a lot of bills on the floor that would benefit Americans immediately. So I'm a little disappointed that we're not in session, but I do think at the end of the day, Terrence, they will agree on this continuing resolution, and we'll just punt the football another 45 days or so, and then we'll look at it all again come Thanksgiving. But as of last night, no additional discussions are taking place right now.
All right, Brian.
And Brian, just a quick follow-up. The fact that President Trump has canceled that meeting, it seems to imply, or it seems to send the message that he just doesn't think that Democrats are going to be reasonable in any conversations that might be had.
I think you're right on that. That's a great assumption. And so he's like, why sit down if we're not really going to get down to getting a deal done? And that's realistic. So it's just kind of a game of chicken right now. And I know a lot of people on both sides are not in favor of what's happening right now. They don't necessarily want to be doing this. But it looks like this game of chicken will continue until at least another 6.5 days as we go to that looming deadline.
All right, Brian, I stayed up late last night to watch Jimmy Kimmel, which meant I missed my production call for the first time ever in 8 years of working here. Did not get fired yet. At least maybe they'll tell me after the show. Anyway, I watched Jimmy Kimmel. I did fall asleep like in the middle of it, but I got far enough to see him actually say he believes in Jesus. I mean, I literally, this is the Charlie Kirk effect. Talk about it, Brian.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I think he has some time to reflect on what he said. Now, I read Jimmy Kimmel's monologues just about every day that he has, that he's on the show and he guest hosts the show. I look at what he talks about, and he does. There's a thin line between good-hearted political humor, which has been in late-night talk shows forever, and the other side of being what I would call slanderous hate speech. And for someone who really walks that thin line there, I think last night, was a heartfelt message. I don't think he really intended to hurt the base and be disrespectful to Charlie Kirk. But I will say this, for someone who has said over and over again, and I've got dozens of clips on my phone right now calling Marjorie Taylor Greene Klan mom, associating her with the KKK, associating her with being a racist. If you repeat that enough over time, people could tend to now all of a sudden assume that you're this horrible person. So he's done the same thing to President Trump. He does the same thing to MAGA. So you may have seen some tears last night, but I'm more interested to see what his monologues look like going forward. Will he continue to politically attack in a slanderous way people, that conservatives and Republicans? So I'm all about good political humor. I really am. I think Jimmy Kimmel is talented. I like his delivery. I think he's funny. I was a fan of him from day one. But I do not like the way he's made this radical turn and politicized his talk show to go after Trump and conservatives and anybody on the right. But if he did mention Jesus, and I did not see that, I certainly have a lot of love in my heart for him to come around and actually acknowledge that, and maybe it'll change him from this point forward. Now, real quickly, if I could, 30 seconds. The reason why you're not seeing some of these Nexstar stations and Sinclair stations put him back on, they can make more money if they remove his program and do a locally original content, rerun their news, put a locally produced show on there. There's more avails, 30 to 40 more commercial spots they can sell. So they actually make more money from a local standpoint than if they put Jimmy Kimmel's show back in. I think it's got two sides. It shows support for President Trump and shows respects to Charlie Kirk for keeping him off the show, and they make more money. They have more available time slots or insertions, avails of what they call in the industry, to make money on this. So I don't expect those Sinclair or Nexstar, to those stations that are holding out, I don't expect them to have Kimmel back on. I really don't.
Yeah. Brian, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks Brian.
Thank you.
Coming up, we check out the hottest headlines from the RAV newsroom with T. Bates, and later, President Trump calls on Vladimir Putin to make the deal to end the war with Ukraine. What consequences did Trump say could be coming if there is no deal, though? Find out on American Sunrise.
This Sunday, Real America's Voice pauses to honor a patriot whose voice carried a movement. RAV presents Charlie Kirk, A Legacy Remembered.
We will achieve American greatness, and we are just getting started.
From campuses to the national stage, Charlie inspired millions to stand boldly for faith, freedom, and country. Now, we reflect on his life, his mission, and the legacy he leaves behind.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done.
When America needed a hero, God sent us a Charlie Kirk.
Hosted by Steve Bannon. Live coverage of Charlie Kirk's funeral service begins at 10 a.m. Eastern. Join us as we remember a life that will never be forgotten. Only on Real America's Voice.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
This is Tim King, also known as USS Malik, and I love Real America's Voices for its like-minded programming and the chat. Love you guys.
I'm Andy M., and I love Real America's Voice, where my voice counts and your voice counts. That is America's Voice.
This news break is brought to you by AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens.
White House on a Wednesday morning. What am I talking about? I'm giving you wrong information. I literally am fake news. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. I'm David Brody. At least I think I am. Join us in the chat on YouTube, X, Rumble. Where else? Getter. Am I missing? There's tons of places. Anyhow, go all of those places for sure. All right, coming up, more about Trump's visit to the United Nations General Assembly, and we will discuss specifically, later in the show, we're going to discuss his remarks on climate change, but we're going to discuss in the next segment his comments about Palestinian statehood and taking those countries to task who want that to happen. First, though, T. Bates standing by with the latest headlines from the Real America's Voice newsroom, sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
President Trump is preparing to host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House next week. We're also hearing that Netanyahu will be speaking to the United Nations General Assembly in advance of his meeting with the president. On Tuesday, that was the appetizer to the upcoming meeting between the president and the prime minister, as the commander-in-chief met with Arab and Muslim leaders on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly meeting. There's still no word on takeaways from the president's meeting with the delegation from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Indonesia, and Pakistan. The commander-in-chief left the meeting without talking to reporters. The gathering reportedly focused on ending the ongoing war in Gaza, and priorities for achieving that goal reportedly include releasing all hostages still being held by Hamas and taking steps towards addressing the worsening humanitarian crisis in that region. The man who tried to assassinate then presidential candidate Donald Trump while he played golf in Florida tries to stab himself in the neck with a pen after a jury took just 2 hours to convict him. These courtroom sketches illustrate how it all went down. The 59-year-old was found guilty of attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate, possessing a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence, and assaulting a federal officer, among a long list of other charges. He now faces up to life in prison during his sentencing on December 18th.
Very appreciative of the justice that was given and the way it was handled by Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche and everybody that it's been, and their team of people. It was really well handled, and it's very important. You can't let things like that happen. Nothing to do with me. but a president or even a person, you can't allow that to happen. And so justice was served, and we'll see what happens.
Prosecutors say the guy spent weeks plotting the attempted assassination. He lost the case and his freedom after representing himself during the trial. Attorney General Pam Bondi says the verdict illustrates the Department of Justice's commitment to punishing those who engage in political violence. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'll have more headlines coming your way shortly, but now let's get a quick check of your coast-to-coast forecast with Weather Nation meteorologist Adrian Hernandez. Adrian, I've got to tell you, here in Denver, it is truly starting to feel like fall. It was like in the 40s and 50s yesterday. It rained. My bursitis was flaring up. It was so cold.
Yeah, Terrence. Well, you guys also saw some snow well up in the Rockies, anywhere from 3 to 12 inches, frosted a bit of those mountaintops. But elsewhere across the country, we are still tracking this cold front that continues to move off towards the east, bringing really good rain chances and the potential for severe weather as it continues to trend on. Now, most of the moisture is going to get funneled closer to the East Coast as we start to trend towards Thursday and Friday and the latter portions of the work week. But the road to get there is rather long. We'll have this yellow outlook here for the severe outlook for today, and then the orange outlook will be the severe outlook for tomorrow. The main threat and primarily the only threat most likely will be damaging winds. Out in the Atlantic, we have two invests we're watching, one with high chances of development over the next 7 days, but low ones in the short term, and the other one with very high chances of forming, likely to get the next name of the system, which will be Umberto, next name on the list. Models are relatively scattered on where this might end up, but if you guys are living in the East Coast, I will advise you guys to make sure to stay updated on any notifications coming out. That's a coast-to-coast weather outlook. Back to you, Terrence.
Thank you, sir. We'll check in with you in about an hour. Up next, though, President Trump warns against recognizing a Palestinian state. So how did the rest of the United Nations General Assembly react? We've got the details ahead. Right now, though, a quick look at this day in history. It was on this day in 1789 that the Supreme Court was born under Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution. President George Washington himself appointed the very first justices, with John Jay serving as the nation's first Chief Justice. The court held its first session in 1790 in New York City's Royal Exchange Building, and just years later, Marbury versus Madison established the court's power to strike down unconstitutional laws, making the Supreme Court a cornerstone of America's freedom. More American Sunrise coming your way after this.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
I'm a J6er, and I spent 3 months in jail and about a year in prison.
I spent 4 years out of an 18-year sentence in prison.
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
In reality, J6ers are patriotic men and women, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers from all walks of life.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
And we need your help.
For just $10 or more, you're helping these patriots get mental, physical, and spiritual help.
Please scan the QR code or go to j6support.com to donate $10 or more to support these American patriots.
Thank you for being a patriot. Thank you for standing in the gap.
I'm Steph 44, and I love RAV because I get truthful reporting. I get to chat with patriots. As a bonus, I get to guess Slick Rick's boots.
Hi, I'm Chris from Illinois, and we like to watch Real America's Voice in the War Room with Stephen K. Bannon for all the great guts. Everyone from Kerry Lake, the great Frank Gaffney, Trump coming for retribution.
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
Hi, this is Chris from Colorful Colorado. I'm drawbridge in the Getter Chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
I know that building. Give me a second. I feel like Biden. Give me a second. Hold on. Maybe I'll take a bike ride and fall. It's the White House. I can confirm it. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. President Trump addressed the UN General Assembly yesterday. We talked about it at the top of the show. There's a lot of material to get to. Here's some more of that material. He slammed the notion of recognizing a Palestinian state. Take a look.
Some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refuse to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire. Instead of giving to Hamas and giving so much, because they've taken so much, this could have been solved so long ago. But instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now.
All right, let's have more discussion with that with Dr. G and T. Bates. Hey, guys, when he said release the hostages, it was like a smattering of applause, like, I guess we have to clap. But I really don't want to clap. This body is just, Trump said your countries are going to hell, is what he specifically said. And he was talking about everything from immigration to a lot of other things. So, this to me is just more of the same in terms of the Palestinian statehood. This idea that these countries are literally not just anti-Israel, but they are just off the charts on so many other issues. We're going to get to climate change in the second hour, but it's everything, T-Base. It's not just one issue.
No, and I think President Trump's remarks yesterday were a rebuke of the United Nations as an institution, specifically as it relates to the United Nations policies that impact the United States and global policies that are hurting the United States. I think President Trump directly called out the United Nations. In fact, when it comes to immigration or illegal immigration specifically, he addressed this issue not just for the United States, but on a global level, saying that the United Nations, has implemented policies that are hurting countries all around the world. And he in fact said, and this is a pseudo quote, but he basically said that the United Nations is funding an illegal invasion of the United States, that the United Nations has directly been involved in funding this invasion, and that the United Nations is causing more problems than it's doing good, which I think, again, is a direct rebuke, Dr. Gina.
100%. He absolutely straight up said that. And, for them to have to sit and get schooled, I was laughing the whole time thinking, my gosh, he's so darn entertaining. I can't say that I've ever been able to sit through a UN address by a president. I'm sorry, that's just boring. And I'm a news junkie, so there you go, with no other real hobbies. But this was so easy to sit through, and I'm just laughing. I'm wanting to see the expressions of the audience. Better than Jimmy Kimmel any day of the week. And that was, by the way, I have to say for audience, that was the first time I ever watched Jimmy Kimmel, was last night. And I only watched it because it was so newsworthy. I don't know that that'll ever happen again. But if President Trump addresses the UN again, I am definitely going to watch.
First time you've watched Jimmy Kimmel, and the last time, most likely, that you'll watch Jimmy Kimmel. All right. For reaction on all this UN General Assembly discussion, let's bring in, there he is, Charles Morano, former Secret Service Special Agent, former Homeland Security Advisor. Charles, what did you think of the speech? It comes to mind that song Burning Down the House by Talking Heads.
Yeah, I call it being honest. Really, what else is he getting out of the United Nations besides getting stuck in an elevator and the teleprompter not working? And I think that pretty much sums up the way the United Nations is viewed in this day and age, not only by the United States, but by many of its members, if they were to be as honest as President Trump was yesterday. They've become useless. They've become a paper tiger. They've got no enforcement, no will behind any of their decisions. So the big question is, why does the United States continue to keep footing the majority of the bill for this place?
Well, they have cut some money, which is a good start. I think, about $1 billion or so. We'll see if they continue on. Gina, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Well, one of the things he addressed was the Russian-Ukraine war and called on Putin to make a deal or face tariffs. Take a look.
In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures. I mean, you're much closer to this. We have an ocean in between. You're right there. And Europe has to step it up. They can't be doing what they're doing. They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia. It's embarrassing to them, and it was very embarrassing to them when I found out about it, I can tell you that. They have to immediately cease all energy purchases from Russia. Otherwise, we're all wasting a lot of time.
Why are those people sitting there filming him with their iPhones? Don't they know this will probably make national news? That was weird. I'm sorry. I'm very distractible.
I thought the same thing.
The inability to live in the moment.
Yes, something's a little off there. But you know, he's literally sitting there talking to basically everyone who disagrees with him. His affect is interesting too.
Well, two areas that are of interest, and that is, one, we still have way too many allies that are reliant on Russia for oil, and therefore continuing to fund Russia, especially as it relates to the war against Ukraine. The other thing that was interesting that the president brought up was he actually did some what I call verbal Jedi mind tricking with Putin. And he said, look, I actually think Ukraine may be able to not only win this war, but take away all the gains that Russia has made in the country. Now, that can be read a lot of different ways by Putin, never mind the sanctions and all the other stuff he brought up. But that can be read differently by Putin. That can basically mean that, wait a minute, is President Trump throwing all in now, once again, with supporting Zelensky in Ukraine in all ways, shapes, and forms?
That's a great point. I mean, as crossed
that opens up a whole nother can. Like I got 15 more questions to follow up, but I don't think we've got the time for that.
Well, look, I mean, just briefly, I would say this: if Putin is able to constantly switch up the chairs on us, then why can't we do it to him? Let's start keeping him on his toes.
Well, there's Terrence, there's so much to talk about.
Can you come back tomorrow? What are you doing around this time tomorrow?
Here's what Putin, I guarantee you, here's what Putin thinks. Yeah, good. Well, here's what Putin thinks. He knows that Trump is America first, and he knows that Trump doesn't want to get bogged down in Ukraine, and he knows that MAGA will be upset if he throws more money into Ukraine. So he's banking on that. And if that changes, MAGA might not be happy, but Putin might not be happy either. We got to talk about that. All right,
that's right.
Charles, great to have you. Great to see you.
All right.
Charles, thank you. Because now you got my blood pressure up, because I want to talk more about this, but I'm going to shut up. David, go ahead, take it away. We'll talk to you later on,
I got a pill for that. It's right here on my desk. Okay, coming up, Dr. G's wide-ranging interview with Eric Trump. Great stuff, talking about his new book, Under Siege, but so much more. We have that for you next on American Sunrise. Don't go anywhere, everybody, on a Wednesday.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
I'm a J6er, and I spent 3 months in jail and about a year in prison.
I spent 4 years out of an 18-year sentence in prison.
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
In reality, reality, J6ers are patriotic men and women, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers from all walks of life.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
And we need your help.
For just $10 or more, you're helping these patriots get mental, physical, and spiritual help.
Please scan the QR code or go to j6support.com to donate $10 or more to support these American patriots.
Thank you for being a patriot. Thank you for standing in the gap.
I'm Steph 44, and I love Rav because I get truthful reporting. I get to chat with patriots. As a bonus, I get to guess Slick Rick's boots.
Hi, I'm Chris from Illinois. We like to watch Real America's Voice in the War Room with Stephen K. Bannon for all the great guts. Everyone from Kerry Lake, the great Frank Gaffney, Trump 24, Retribution.
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
Hi, this is Chris from colorful Colorado. I'm drawbridging the Getter chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Dr. G. Thanks for joining us today. It is time now for our health news, sponsored by the Wellness Company and under the microscope today. This one is a doozy. Can tattoos prevent melanoma? I know. I thought I had to read it over like 3 times to believe I was really reading the headline. A new study in the Journal of National Cancer Institute says people who have had 2 or more sessions getting a tattoo show a lower risk of skin cancer. And the risk goes down by 56% for those who have had at least 4 sessions. Researchers are trying to examine if those who have gotten some ink are more cautious in the sun or if there's a true link between tattoos and the lower risk of skin cancer. Very interesting, because I think some of the blood cancers, if I'm not mistaken, I've read studies, I think some of the blood cancers rates are increased after tattoos, but skin cancer rates apparently go down. We're going to have to keep looking into this. I hope my kids aren't watching this. A new administration in Washington, D.C. has brought a lot of positive changes when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. The reality, though, is there's only so much the government can do, and if we really want to make America healthy again, it starts at home with each and every one of us, and that's where the Wellness Company comes in. You see and hear from their doctors on this network, and you know that their products are the gold standard in keeping you and your family safe and healthy. With the Wellness Company, you can make sure you're prepared for whatever happens with their series of prescription med kits. Kits contain an assortment of life-saving medication and guidebooks to tell you how to use the meds in the kit. Also, the Wellness Company offers a variety of products from parasite cleanses to methylene blue, weight loss, and more. You can stay healthy and live a longer and more satisfying life. Make America healthy again starts at home. Do your part, protect the health of yourself and your family. Go to twc.health/RAV. Today, give it an order. That's twc.health/RAV. Use the promo code RAV. It'll save you 10%. All right, I recently had the chance to sit down with Senior Vice President of the Trump Organization, Eric Trump, for a wide-ranging interview. Eric talked about his new book, Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation, coming out soon. And we also touched on the lawfare against the Trump family. Here is that interview. Welcome back to American Sunrise. With me right now, the one and only Eric Trump. Eric, what a thrill to have you in the studio. I don't think we've ever done this, so this is a big treat for me especially, and especially on the heels of the launch of your brand new book. We're so excited about it, Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. And oh, what a fight it has been. I feel like I have been in a fight, and all I am is just a rally-going patriot for the most part. But, you know, your family has been so under the microscope. And I remember going way back to 2015 when I was doing some work with your beautiful, amazing wife, Laura, and hearing some of the inside stories. Yeah. But the reality of the matter is, if your father were not sitting in the Oval Office right now, you could be in prison, your wife could be in prison, who knows what they would have come up with, right, as reasons to arrest you, your friends, your family, your siblings. Sure. Your children could be alone. I mean, this had to be in your mind while you were going through this last campaign. What did that feel like to you?
Well, in the book, I actually say that. It was either the Oval Office or it was jail. I mean, that's what they wanted. They did everything they could do to destroy the family. And listen, my father had certain constitutional protections as president. I had no protections, right? I mean, I ran the Trump organization. They made my life hell. I became the most subpoenaed person in American history. Every single day, Gina, you probably remember it. I was getting subpoena after subpoena. They went to the darkest blue areas of the darkest blue states. I mean, Washington, D.C., downtown New York City, right? Corrupt judges. They went after him legally. They went after him with AGs. They went after him with DAs. They tried to remove him from the ballots of states. They tried to impeach him twice. They went after his Supreme Court justices. They gag ordered him over and over. They tried to take away free speech. They censored him. They threw him off of Twitter. They threw him off of Facebook, off of Instagram. They literally banned anything to do with Donald Trump on YouTube. They censored his campaigns. Every single campaign ad that talked about going out to vote, Google was censoring. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, they destroyed his friends, his family. They raided his home. They tried to break up his marriage. They tried to divide us as a family. They threw his CFO in jail for doing absolutely nothing wrong. And by the way, and that's just what's seen in the headlines. And I wrote Under Siege as a way to kind of talk about the true corruption of government. And I can tell you the New York Times, and I'm going to make New York Times bestseller list. I want to be #1. They are not going to like this book. They're going to fight like hell against me. But the story had to be told. It had to be told from the person who dealt with the vast majority of those attacks, did so every single day outside the Oval Office. And I really fought like hell for a man that I love and a family I love and frankly, a country I love.
It's a lot to sacrifice. And your father is made of something special. Nobody who's ever been around him would deny that. I remember coming back from some event with him at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and all the kids that were around him were like, we're going to bed now, finally. And he's like, no, we have work to do. And off we went to do more work. That's just who he is. He's made of stuff that's just it's almost superhuman. And you know this. But things roll off his back, Eric. I don't know that everyone is built of what he's built of. What role did faith play for you and Laura and your family as you were going through some of the deepest cuts?
Yeah. Well, I actually talk a lot about it in the book, but I mean, just look at the day of Butler, right? Yeah. I mean, it defies belief that an American flag could roll up in the perfect form of an angel.
Right.
Oh
right? My gosh.
It defies belief that he goes off script, looks up at a teleprompter screen and a rifle round from 130 yards away.
And turned his head perfectly at the exact moment.
Just happened to nick him as opposed to kill him. That's a shot that can't be missed by a competent person with a rifle, right? And there's hundreds of those. I mean, I tell the story of Corey, obviously the incredible firefighter who's killed at Butler all the time. His wife told me that, that morning he woke up and said, Donald Trump is going to call me up on that stage. Donald Trump is going to call me up on that stage. And he knew something. And the wife's looking at him is incredible. I mean, his family's beyond incredible and saying, Donald Trump's not going to call you up on the stage. What are you talking about? Like there's going to be 50,000 people at the rally. How? Faith is real. Faith is real. God was there. God was watching. Go back to 2016. I mean, we self-funded the vast majority of that campaign. He did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know what a damn caucus was. We knew nothing about politics. I mean, I remember him calling me up, and Megyn Kelly was going to kill us on his immigration stance. He calls me up. He goes, honey, will you go on Megyn Kelly tonight? I'll never forget. I was driving down the highway to go home. And so I turn around to go back into the city. And he goes, will you go on Megyn? I go, Pops, you understand. I don't know a damn thing. I'm really good at building hotels. I'm great at the golf course world. I'm really good at commercial buildings and residential. I'm really good at operations. That's what I did every day. I don't know a damn thing about illegal immigration. And here we were, right? And there was a sincerity to our family. Like when we got to Iowa, the first time there, and we spoke from our hearts, and we spoke about a father, and we spoke about a nation we loved, and it worked. But again, he funded his campaign, right, against a political dynasty who put $1.5 billion into her race and actually knew something about politics. You better believe that somebody was watching down on all of us, and faith has played a big part of our life, and a big part of politics, and a big part of keeping him safe. It was Russian roulette throughout the last 10 years, over and over and over again. And somehow he survived and against all odds. And so that's a pretty remarkable thing. You brought up Butler, Pennsylvania that day. We all know exactly where we were, like we do on 9/11. We all know exactly where we were in that moment when we heard about it. Where were you? I was at home. I had my kids in my lap. We were watching TV. I was kind of mid-email and obviously heard the shots and a horrible moment, a horrible moment for everybody, a lot of people, right? A horrible moment for this country. And also one that, and I got killed for saying this a couple weeks before. I was on Fox and I was talking about how I wouldn't be surprised if they resorted to that. I mean, again, they tried to take him off the ballots. They tried to imprison him. They charged him with 91 felonies for doing absolutely nothing wrong. They tried to take his name off skylines all over the world, the Letitia Jameses and all these people. They had run out. They tried to impeach him twice, right? And they had tried everything that they possibly could.
They knew they would stop at nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, what was their last remedy? Right. To try and kill him. And I'm still not happy with the explanation. I talk about that a lot in the book. I'm still not happy with the explanation that anybody's given. We know substantially more about, Venezuelan gang members, El Salvador, that are being deported from this country than we know about the actual person who tried to, why is it that you have one picture of the guy? Well, has anybody actually seen more than one picture of this guy? Why is it that the guy was cremated, 5 days later? Mm-hmm. Like, give me a break, right? Most family pets aren't cremated faster than a guy who tried to kill the 45th president, 47th president. Why is it that there's never been any report after the fact? I think it's left our entire country wondering what the hell actually happened. Isn't it amazing that they were able to break into the phones of every single January 6th person who walked into the Capitol and snapped a selfie, but yet, this maniac, they happen to not be able to get into his multiple cell phones?
Yeah.
I call BS, and I think most of your listeners probably call BS, and most of the country calls BS. Mm-hmm. And I think my father's had a lot of grace when it's come to to this whole thing and putting it behind him. I think I've probably personally had a lot less. And again, I talk about it a lot in the book.
Understandably, as a political spouse, I can say that, there's nothing harder than watching someone you love be attacked wrongly. And it's literally all you've done for more than the last decade. Yeah. And one of those ways that he's been attacked is, you do something really magical that I don't think is really out there in the news. You have a very blended family. I literally see his exes at various things. Of course, your beautiful mother that you lost too long ago already. She loved him, loved your family. I saw her at parties with everyone. There's Marla, of course. One of the things that's really interesting is how you all make it all work. And there are a lot of blended families out there, either because of death or divorce. I wanted to give you a chance to talk about how you all make that work, because that's very unusual, but you all do it seamlessly.
Yeah. My mother was the greatest, and she always, she loved my father, always. They loved each other until the very end. Now, she had the funniest quote. She said to Anderson Cooper, one of these guys who just berated her nonstop during the first election. She goes, maybe he wasn't the greatest of a husband, but man, will that man make a damn good president. It was like the coolest Ivana Trump line, but it's amazing. It was never forced on us. I love Baron to death. I think he's an awesome kid. Tiffany is like the nicest girl you'll ever meet, incredibly close with her. Obviously, Don and Ivanka, inseparable with. But it was never forced, right? And that's kind of amazing. My mom, when she was buried, she's actually buried, in kind of like the family plot that we carved out to be kind of like almost the family.
Bedminster, right?
Family cemetery. Imagine going to your current wife and saying, hey, I'd like my ex-wife to be buried alongside all, right? It's not one of those conversations they usually have.
Right.
Most of the time, the current wife would say, no freaking way, right?
Right. But it really defeats the narrative out there on your dad.
And yet during her, funeral, it was, the deranged family members all come together. Now, that was again, I talk about this so much in the book, like they wanted to break us apart. They wanted to divide and conquer. They would give everything. The amount of book companies that went out there and literally paid people to make up BS narratives, right? To interject their thoughts. And I had we have a kind of distant niece who wrote this book about, a couple 100-page book about our family and how we're a, terrible family. And yet I think if I met her once in my adult life,
wow. You barely have even met her?
And yet there's I literally know
And she's taken as some sort of authority.
I know my FedEx guy better than I know her, yet she's watching she's launching 300-page books about absolute nonsense. And it's just amazing, right? It's amazing how the world works, but we are an amazingly close family. Yeah. My father is a remarkable guy. He's doing a hell of a job. There has never been a fighter like that.
And he wasn't easy on you growing up. I mean, people think you live this life of privilege.
He's a tough cookie. And by the way, my mom was maybe even tougher, right? Coming from a communist Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
No games, great manners, but we have an amazing family. He's an amazing guy. It was the greatest honor of my life to stand by him every single day. We fought like hell. Yeah. We fought like hell because we had no one else. I mean, no one was fighting for us. I mean, I went back and I tried to count the amount of people that endorsed my father in the 2016 race. And I think there was like two or three at like the very, very end.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward to 2024 and every senator, every congressman, yes, we do. It would be our greatest pleasure to endorse you. And I'm sitting there laughing, saying like, it's just amazing.
And speaking of that, you lost friends during we all did. All of us who stood for him back in 2015, 2016 know what it was like to be booed when you walked in a room of people that you thought were your friends or supporters before that. But you had a lot of these people come back around, and some of this was pretty ironic. You talk about this in the book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I lost some really good friends. I mean, two of my best friends in the world. I were in their wedding parties, best friends with them every vacation, every weekend, and then all of a sudden one day I open up Instagram and one of their wives was, marching in one of the parades in Washington, D.C. in 2016. And
that hurts.
You kind of send them the text message like,
what the heck?
I literally introduced you to your wife. Like, I was there the day you guys met. I was in your wedding. I was standing by your side, and I get to see some vile sign, held up by her and your two kids who I adore. And no, politics is crazy. What's also amazing is how many of those people come back around after the fact, which is the amount of text messages I got, right after November 8th of 2017, and then obviously right after November 5th of 2024. Hey, buddy, how are you? Just checking in.
I really love an appointment.
I wanted to stay a little distant because I knew how busy you were, but really we were behind you the entire time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
that.
I don't want to use the word, but there's some FUs that go through your mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
that even happens to supporters, right? Who stood by him, and then they hear from people from high school, like, hey, do you think you can help me? You give me a meeting with Eric Trump. I'm like, I haven't seen Eric Trump in a year, but yeah, sure.
But you know what the most beautiful thing is? I wouldn't trade one of those people who disappeared from your life for the amount of unbelievable people that have come into our lives. Hey, listen, you've come into our lives, right? Had it not been for the political journey, Laura and I would have never known you. We would have never known your husband, right? I can count so many of those people. And by the way, who really had personal sacrifice throughout this whole process.
Yeah, talk to those patriots, Eric, because a lot of them have lost friends too. Maybe they went to a barber shop and now they're not even welcome there anymore. That kind of thing. Talk to them for a second.
Well, what I'll say is, we've won. We've won, and I mean that with all of my heart. Listen, we won the popular vote. We won all the swing states, right? We won every single state, meaning every single state skewed to the right, or skewed Republican. Look at Miami-Dade County. 37 years, Miami-Dade County has never been won. We won Miami-Dade County by 11 points, every single demographic, whether it be race, religion, gender, age demographic, every single one of them skewed. And so the point is, the early people got abused, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, they won. Yeah. They were right. And now this country is in the right hands. We've become a nation of faith again. We've become a nation of the Constitution again. We've become a nation of common sense, no BS. We're not being ripped off by the entire world. You have a person in the Oval Office who's doing a great damn job and restoring safety to the streets, restoring family. What I hope we've imparted throughout this whole fight is a little bit of a sense of the American family and what can be accomplished if you punch hard and work hard. And so I guess to all those patriots, we've won. And hopefully I think everybody's probably seeing right now that their time and effort and sacrifices and lost friendships and other things, hopefully at this point is paid off, because I think they're seeing the country in a much better place than it was under a demented, deranged president who was using an auto pen every day.
Well, there's one other narrative that I think you might need to set straight, and that is people think that your brother Don, now I know you love him, but people think that he's the sportsman of the family, and I've heard rumors otherwise. I just wanted you to correct the record.
Oh, yeah. No, anything that flies through the air, anything that goes down a rifle barrel or pistol barrel or shotgun barrel, no, I've got Don. No, joking aside, Don's an amazing sportsman. He's the... I always call him the modern-day Teddy Roosevelt, and I don't say that lightly.
Wow.
Don and I grew up in the woods with compound bows. Man, the amount of time we spent there, and my father, my grandfather on my mom's side got shooting from a very, very young age, and it's been a massive part of our lives. Competitive shooting, all the shooting.
You're really good.
We really love it. We really, really love it. It's ingrained in our kind of DNA, and it's every bit of our heart and soul. And so my father had, kind of the real estate and golf. My mother's side had, really the outdoors.
Yeah.
And so we're a blending of all three.
What a beautiful balance. And how American. Couldn't get more American than that. I wanted to take 1 second to ask you about this because the left would love to attack you on you guys trying to study our economy in every way you can, not just with your father being president and all the risks you've taken therein, but really in building businesses yourself. And one of the things you've done is establish this World Liberty Financials, and the left, of course, coming in, wanting to attack you for this stable coin. A lot of people are excited about it. A lot of people invested in it, but they're saying it's a conflict of interest. I wanted to give you a chance to speak back to them about your motivation. I want to understand your vision behind this.
So the greatest irony, in 2021, I started getting letters every single day. Capital One took 300 bank accounts away from us, meaning I get a letter. Your accounts are hereby closed, right? I mean, that's the essence of the letter. We were debanked, we were deplatformed by everyone. Capital One, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America. I mean, you go down the list. First Republic Bank, right? Everyone. Shopify went after us, the biggest brokerage firms, right? Every one of them deplatformed us. And I'm sitting there saying, I don't have a chance, right? We don't have we need rails to run the business. And I realized how fragile the banking industry was in this country and around the world. And that's really where we got into crypto. And I really quickly realized, and that's World Liberty Financial, I really quickly realized that there's nothing that the big banks can't do that crypto using blockchain can't do better, faster, cheaper, more transparently. I always give a couple of analogies. Why is it that you want to go finance a home? Why is it takes you 120 days when you and your husband have probably been customers of the very bank you're going to use for financing for the last 30 years? Why is it that every single week as a real estate guy, I'm waiting to send out a wire, right? And I'm desperately trying to get out the wire before 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, right? And by the way, if you don't get it out by 5 o'clock, guess what? The intended recipient, or if you don't receive it by 5 o'clock, they're not going to get the money until the following late Monday or Tuesday.
Why is that in our day of technology?
Yet I can grab my cell phone and I can send you Bitcoin. The other crypto company we have is American Bitcoin, which I just debuted on the NASDAQ last week.
Congratulations.
It's absolutely soaring and flying.
Yeah.
But why is it in the world that I can send you crypto, I can send you Bitcoin, I can send you USD1, which are a stable coin, and it can go from my wallet to your wallet 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On a Saturday night, you can be having a glass of wine and receive a payment instantly at virtually no fees. And yet the SWIFT transfer. So the reality, the banking system is broken in this country. The banking system went after 50%, including all your listeners, by the way. I mean, half of your listeners were debanked as well.
Yeah.
And so we fell into crypto to solve a problem. No different than we fell into Truth Social to solve the problem that, my father and all of us had been, either silenced or thrown off of, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and the rest of us. So, and then they come out and say it's a conflict of interest. So you cancel us. And then when we pop up a solution, a way to get around the banks that canceled us, you say it's conflict of interest. I mean, you literally can't make it up. But the crypto endeavors are like...
You do make it sound pretty humorous at that point.
World Liberty is like one of the great companies that's being built right now anywhere. We're really proud of it. American Bitcoin is one of the great companies that's being built. I'm really proud of our listing last week. And it's really become a major facet to our organization.
For somebody who says they didn't know what they were doing when you were told by your father or asked by your father to go to that Megyn Kelly interview all those years ago, you seem to have come a pretty long way. You've got this book. You're extremely articulate in an interview. You actually answer the questions before I get a chance to ask them. That's a real skill, by the way. What about a President Eric Trump someday?
It's honestly, it's a brutal world. I never rule out anything in life. I don't. You better make sure, with my father, I think 2016 was the right time for him because it was probably the first instant in our lives where, he looked at me, I was 33 years old. Hey, honey, I want you to run this company. Right? This is a multi-billion-dollar, many billion-dollar, global real estate empire that became very complicated with politics. And I don't think he could have done that 4 years earlier. But you better make sure that your family, is well-positioned, has a lot of backbone.
What a great point.
They will attack your kids. They will go after them. They will try and destroy your life. They will try and imprison the people around you. That's how the Democrats played this game. And so, we were lucky with my father. We had The Apprentice. We had notoriety. We were on all the shows. We had our own voice. We had some backbone. But man, is it a brutal process.
It's a family thing. That's a great
Now, at the
great
same
point.
time, we better hope that business guys get into Washington, D.C., because honestly, when you hear Kamala, as she was running for president, she's talking about, she's talking about inflation. She doesn't know what inflation is. She's talking about, price gouging. Or what did she say? She actually said price gauging. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And they're saying that this is a person who's going to run a $33 trillion economy, and they can't even get out a basic word. And so we better hope we have more great business people in this country, men and women who actually step into the role. At the same time, it's nasty business. It's ugly as hell, and you better make sure that the people in your family are ready for it.
What about your father on Mount Rushmore? I know patriots will want me to ask that because they love that idea. The Nobel Peace Prize notwithstanding, but Mount Rushmore, it just seems like after everything you all have been through, everything that he's endured, it just seems to follow.
He deserves it.
Yeah.
He deserves it, and he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize so many times over. I've literally been in that office. I was in that office for one conversation where he literally stopped a war. In fact, I was in the office recently for another one where he stopped another one. I mean, the amount of children, and I say children, young kids right now that are running around the world who are alive based on the fact that he stopped conflicts that otherwise would have spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
There are moms and dads out there who have their kids based on calls that he's made and conflicts that he's ended kind of before they really got out of control. And they have probably zero appreciation that, many of their children and many of the people they knew would not be there had it not been for him. And he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. And to watch so many of these presidents in the past get the Nobel Peace Prize who did nothing other than, fund the Pentagon's war machine and create conflict all over the world and enter these 20-year wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that cost our country trillions of dollars and thousands of lives. Yet these guys are getting Nobel Peace Prizes. Yet Donald Trump is the one president who's actually never taken us to war. He's never gotten into a war. He's done everything humanly possible to keep us out of the war. And yet they kind of begrudge him that honor, which he deserves more than anybody. He deserves that Nobel Peace Prize. He deserves to be on Mount Rushmore. And I think in time he'll get both.
Well, the book is under siege. My family's fight to save our nation. I understand it's a very candid book. It's very personal. It's very heartfelt, biographical almost. Congratulations on it. All the best to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless you and your family.
I think New York Times is probably going to do everything they possibly can to knock me down.
So we all need to go buy. What are the tricks? Go buy it the first day.
Go buy it right now. It's on Amazon.
Pre-order right now, right?
Actually, DJT my father did the audio. He wrote the foreword to the book. He did the audio, which was really nice. Laura did one of the forewords to the book too, and I read the entire book, which was a hell of an experience. It was fun. So I put my heart and soul into it, and it's a great read and helped me take out the New York Times because they're going to do everything they can to keep me from being number one. You better believe that.
It's got to be.
The knives are going to be out.
Too big to rig, right? We got to make it too big to rig, guys. Where have we heard that before? Eric Trump, thank you. God bless you.
It's good to see you.
All right, you too. Back with more American Sunrise right after this.
Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
we have breaking news to share with you.
Politics. President Trump is joining us live now from Florida. We've got you covered. This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrence.
And I'm Dr. Gina.
Breaking news from Real America's Voice.
We begin this Wednesday morning with breaking news. We are working to update reports of a deadly shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas. Reports out of Dallas say that 3 detainees are shot. More are injured after a sniper went on a shooting spree. Local police say that sniper was set up on a rooftop near that facility. Investigators are confirming that the shooter is dead, saying that he died of a self-inflicted gun wound. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem posted this message on X, writing, "While we don't know motive yet, we know that our ICE law enforcement is facing unprecedented violence against them. It must stop. Please pray for the victims and their families." Again, no word on how many total victims there are at this point, but we will continue to update you on this developing story as we get new information. Again, guys, as we bring in Dr. Gina and David, a shooting at an ICE detainment facility there in Dallas, Texas. We're hearing that 3 detainees were shot, several several more people hurt and said to be in critical condition. And we'll continue to update all of this throughout the day. Sad start to this Wednesday, guys.
And meanwhile, Gavin Newsom wants to strip them of resources and take away any of their protective gear and all the rest of it, not let them wear masks. But it's okay if you're a criminal and you want to go into any store and rob, and you can wear a mask then, but not our ICE agents. I mean, this is,
Well, we've got to connect the dots here because apparently, according to early reports that are apparently confirmed out there, we'll see, but the detainees were the ones that were shot, not the ICE officers. So that's interesting to me. Let's unpack that exactly as to motive and what's going on here. Having said that, ICE officer assaults have been up about 500 to 700%. So we've got a couple competing, I don't want to call it narratives here, but you can be sure that you've got conservatives on the one hand saying, okay, ICE officers under attack. That's a fact, by the way. But does this play into that? We don't know. That's the truth. Right. And then you have the other side saying, that there's a lot of anger against illegal immigrants and what Trump is doing, and how dare they. So I don't know exactly which way this is going to go. It obviously not only bears monitoring, but we're monitoring it in the next hour, and we'll get you what we have.
It doesn't change, David, regardless of what happened here. It doesn't change that it's got to be about the most dangerous job other than President of the United States, just to be in that environment daily, and they deserve all the protections that they can get.
Well,
absolutely.
That's a great
we'll continue
point.
to update this story, guys. We do have to get.
Go ahead.
Guys,
no, you go,
T. To get to weather. We've got weather standing by really quickly. We'll talk about this, and like I say, continue to update the story throughout the morning. Let's get over to meteorologist Adrian Hernandez. Adrian, good morning.
Good morning, Terrence, and we're still tracking that cold front across the country, but you guys out in Denver did see some snow yesterday up in the mountains, but regardless, it was rather cold. And speaking of cold, this cold front is going to continue to move across the east portions of the country, bringing better rain chances across portions of the southeast and the northeast today. And then as we get into the last couple days of the work week into the weekend, more rainfall is expected along the coastline. Of course, this is going to bring forth the potential for severe weather. This is the outlook for Wednesday and Thursday. The yellow highlighted is what's expected for today, and then the red highlighted is what's expected for tomorrow. Now, the main threat, and primarily the only threat we should be seeing, will be damaging wind, but it's not unlikely to maybe see an isolated hailstorm or some hail conditions over the next few days. So looking out in the tropics, out in the Atlantic, we have two invests we're watching with pretty high chances of development over the next week or so, but the models are a little bit all over the place in the sense of where it's going to go in the next several days, but we have to continue to monitor this. If you are living on the East Coast, especially in the state of Florida, I would advise that you continue to stay updated with all of the weather alerts, especially into the next coming days. Heat across Texas has started to subside and is continuing to move off towards the east. That's a look for your coast-to-coast weather. Back to you, Terrence.
Thanks so much, Adrian. Appreciate that reporting. All right, let's get you back over to David. David, that's attack at the ICE facility in Dallas, of course, making big headlines. In fact, I see Just the News reporting on this as well.
Yeah, speaking of Just the News, let's bring in John Solomon, the editor-in-chief of Just the News. John, breaking at this hour, what we're discussing, the ICE, the shooting at the ICE facility in Dallas. What can you tell us? What's the latest?
Well, we're still in the fog of war, so we don't know a lot. We know that at least 3 people were shot, and that the shooter is dead. The shooter is dead from a self-inflicted gun wound, according to Kristi Noem. Who was shot is a question. The police originally told local media that it was 3 detainees. Now they're a little bit more vague about who's been shot and whether there may be more than 3. So I think we're still settling in. The incident just happened. The police response is still ongoing, and I think we'll know a little bit more shortly. But it's a reminder that we live in a violent era, and people too often take, for whatever reason, violence into their hands to settle whatever scores they think they have. Something motivated this person when the police approached them after they were in a sniper position, according to local police. This person took their life. We believe it's a man, but that's all we know right now. It's still very early in the process, and you're still working through the fog of war that you always get at the beginning of an incident like this.
John, you still have people saying that these ICE agents shouldn't be doing what they're doing. Clearly, America is safer. We know the crime statistics. Go over some of that with us. What exactly our ICE agents are sacrificing every day to keep America safer?
They're removing mass numbers of Americans, but they're starting by removing those who pose the greatest threat to American society. So people who are violent criminals, people who already are convicted of crimes, people who are known to have committed crimes on U.S. soil. So there isn't just a numbers game going on. It is a strategic game, a strategic process of trying to get out of the country those who have the greatest chance of committing more crimes, more violence, more harm to American society. And I think that gets lost in the daily news coverage, that what we're doing is really targeting the people we know are bad hombres, people who are bad players in society, who not only came across and broke the law by illegally entering the country, but continued to pose violent threats or violent crimes while on our soil. And I think that strategy has resulted in a really remarkable reduction in crime in lots of places, because you're not just getting people off the street, you're getting people that have a high propensity to commit crimes. I think that strategy gets lost. Now, in addition to that, in addition to the daily removals that are going on, a large number of people who came across the country, into the country illegally under Joe Biden, are self-deporting. And so you're seeing this mass exodus, unprecedented in American history. Some people are leaving voluntarily, some are leaving as a result of law enforcement proceedings. But we're beginning to winnow down that extraordinary crush of illegal immigrants that came into the country under Joe Biden. It's a years-long process, but the early results are impressive. Then you combine that with what Donald Trump has done in the capital city, with putting a National Guard and federal police officers on the street. Crime is down in Washington, D.C. Spirits are up in D.C. And there's a sense that law and order is just being restored to the country. We went from a lawless and disorderly period under Joe Biden to a clear era of law and order. And if you commit a crime, there's a consequence. If you commit a crime, you're not getting put back on the street. And those major changes are not just statistical. They're also psychological. They're also political. And I think the president and his team has been able to change the dialogue to, hey, this isn't some social experiment. This was a really bad idea that put American safety at risk. The cashless bail, the open borders. And I think he's winning that argument. The polling shows he's winning that argument.
John, I realize you're not a law enforcement expert, but I'm going to ask you this question anyway. Just because it seems that we're having so many cases of a sniper perching himself on a roof. In this case, it seems that's once again the case. Charlie Kirk, of course, a sniper on a roof. The first Trump assassination attempt, a sniper on the roof. Is this the modus operandi these days of assassination attempts or people trying to commit crimes, finding a roof and firing on someone?
Well, you now have always a concern, which I started to hear a couple of weeks ago, that this is of the copycat syndrome. Well, one person does it, get claim, and then another person comes up with the idea and moves to whatever their political or intention is, and they mimic that. One of the challenges that sniper attacks create is that unless you have a significant security presence, unless you have a counter sniper team like the Secret Service has, they're very hard to guard against. They are truly ambush attacks. And I think that we need to be keeping an eye on this. A lot of the law enforcement officials I talked to the last couple of weeks are very concerned that post-Butler, post the assassination of Charlie Kirk, that this would become a more common methodology for attack. And it's just very hard to guard against, and that's what the bad people who carry out these attacks are counting on.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, John, by the way, before we let you go, what else are you working on for Just the News? When people go to the website, what's clicking? What's happening?
We've got a really fun story today with Chairman Barry Loudermilk, who is now at House Judiciary, but still overseeing the January 6th investigation. Some profound comments he made on our show the last 24 hours, that he's zeroing in on the FBI informants that were on the ground that day on January 6th. What did they know going into that attack? Did they report it to their supervisors, and did their supervisors withhold that information from other law enforcement who were dedicated to protecting the Capitol that day? He is very concerned that there may have been a setup, meaning the informants were actually reporting potential dangers, and it was not getting up the chain of command and out to the frontline people. So we're working to try to get some documents that have been transmitted to Congress on that. Really great interview with Barry Loudermilk, very candid, very clear. He has access to information that had been withheld from Congress for more than 4 years. So I think this is a moment of reckoning, much like we've seen in the other weaponization probes. I think we're going to learn some pretty jaw-dropping stuff about January 6th in the next few weeks, including about Jack Smith. Stay tuned. We're working real hard on this to try to get people the truth they've been denied for a long time.
Cool.
That is great to hear, John. I love to hear about any follow-up for justice with the J6ers. Thank you so much for everything you do, John. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Great to be on the show, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
All right, coming up, Dems turn on each other as Kamala sparks a civil war. The backstabbers, the brawlers, and the details on the broken party next as American Sunrise continues.
Every person who has taken me on this road to that prison is a friggin' Democrat and a Trump hater.
When former White House advisor Peter Navarro stood on principle, he never imagined it would land him behind bars.
They demanded that I break the law.
But he refused to betray Donald Trump or the Constitution and paid the price as a political prisoner. Locked inside a Miami federal prison, Peter found 2 lifelines, postcards of hope to his fiancée Bonnie Pixie Brenner, and a hidden multi-million-dollar prison scandal he's now exposing. Went to prison so you won't have to. Peter and Pixie share a riveting prison diary, a heartfelt love story, and a shocking look at injustice in America's prison system. Stand with Peter. Scan the QR code now or go to Amazon.com to order your copy.
I went to prison so you won't have to.
Hi, this is Kelly Renee from Northern California Hills, MAGA country. The reason I watch Real America's Voice is for the faith, the family, and the freedom. Giddy up.
Hi, Pat, from Muskegon, Michigan. Why do you love Rav?
Because we've become family. All those Rav live chatters and me.
My name is Kyle. I'm with Real America's Voice because we can chat with each other, the hosts, even management. We are the Rav family, and we're better together.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because they have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
And welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. So what if your morning coffee could actually help you stay younger longer? Rejuvenate Coffee, more than coffee. It's science-backed longevity fuel infused with CAAKG. It's a compound naturally found in your body that's been studied for its role in slowing aging, repairing cells, and boosting mitochondrial health. That means every cup is doing double duty, giving you clean, crash-free, that's key, energy now while supporting your body at the cellular level for the future. It's your daily ritual weaponized against aging. So this is what you do. You go to 1775coffee.com/Rav and order Rejuvenate Coffee today. Fuel your body, protect your future, rejuvenate. Now, over to Emily.
Thank you, David. Now that we are caffeinated, it's time to stay awake, not woke. And who is not only woke today, but feeling the burn? The Democrats. Kamala Harris just torched the entire Democrat Party in her new memoir. Regarding Biden, well, she called him reckless. Pete Buttigieg, he was too risky. Gavin Newsom, he ghosted her. Whitmer, Shapiro, Pritzker, they're all being exposed in her book. Her own team allegedly backstabbed her. The party is panicking, power hungry, and imploding, just like Trump said they would. We want to know what you think. Let us know on Rumble or Getter. Hop on and let your voice be heard. Coming up on American Sunrise, new insights into the Biden administration come to light. In moments, we'll learn about the mean girls who were really calling the shots behind the scenes. And next, we're headed down to Wall Street for the opening bell, an insight into how to hold on to your hard-earned dollars with some common sense. We'll be back with more American Sunrise in just 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
From Muskegon, Michigan. Why do you love Rav?
Because we've become family. All those Rav live chatters and me.
I'm Andy M., and I love Real America's Voice, where my voice counts and your voice counts. That is America's Voice.
It's Stacy from Texas. I watch Real America's Voice because I need to learn, and I know I can get the truth through Rav. God bless everyone, and always love the children. Amen.
Hi, Pat from Muskegon, Michigan. Why do you love Rav?
Because we've become family. All those Rav live chatters and me.
Breaking news from Real America's Voice.
We're back with update on breaking news that we've been telling you about all morning long, or at least for the last 30 minutes or so. This is a live look at Dallas, Texas, where a sniper opened fire on an ICE facility. We're hearing that at least 3 detainees were shot, but no ICE agents were hit in the fire. This new information just in. Again, 3 detainees shot in Dallas at an ICE facility. The sniper, we're told, is dead after turning the gun on himself. We are continuing to monitor this developing situation for you, and we'll continue to update you. But again, the long and short of it, at least 3 ICE detainees shot by a sniper there in Dallas. Several more are hurt and said to be in critical condition, but no ICE agents were hit. That is the good news. Of course, we are still sad that anyone was attacked here in these United States. We'll continue to update you on this story as we continue to get new information. In the meantime, we are preparing for the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. It is set to ring here in short order. And so far, so good in pre-market trading. The Dow, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ are all in the green. They are all positive at the moment. So we'll hope that it continues that way once the bell rings. Again, we'll take you to the New York Stock Exchange for the opening bell here in just a little bit. But first, let's get you back over to David Brody. David, good morning.
Okay. Good morning, T-Bates. Time now for our daily dose of dollars and common sense. That would mean American Sunrise Early Edition host Jake Novak is here. He is the guy behind Jake's Take Substack. So, Jake, Jerome Powell had a lot to say about the economy yesterday. However, apparently you found it to be, shall we say, a tad self-serving. I'm curious to hear why. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, so Jerome Powell got on a stage yesterday for a long interview and talked about how, he thinks stocks are a little bit overvalued. And of course, that's a self-serving statement, trying to make it sound like, well, the reason why he isn't cutting rates is he's worried that there's some kind of bubble in the stock market. That really shouldn't be a reason whether he cuts rates or not. The reason for that should be what's going on in the economy, not the stock market. What's going on at our stores? What's our small businesses who aren't listed on the stock exchange, most of them, David, how they're doing? Are they able to borrow the money they need to make payroll? It was very self-serving. He was trying to make himself into a new Alan Greenspan, who, by the way, is still alive, still with us. Alan Greenspan, the Fed chairman during the boom period of the 90s, he made his very famous speech in the late 90s saying there was irrational exuberance around the stock market, and he was concerned about that. But he didn't say, "Oh, I'm not cutting rates because of that," or I'm going to do anything with interest rates about that. He just made a comment about the stock market. Powell was doing a self-serving little dance there. And again, listen, at the end of the day, his problem is that he cut rates last year twice around election time with no justification economically for it, in my opinion. And he'll never live that down, David, and no matter what he says. And it's up to us to remind everyone that he did that. His record is what it is. You know, he is what his record says it is, according to Bill Parcells, and that's really the case there.
The Bill Parcells reference, that was impressive. By the way, any predictions on who might be the next Fed chair? I know you'd like to get rid of the Fed, but I mean, when is Powell's term up? Is it May of next year or something? March? I don't know.
Yeah, May.
What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, who do you think?
Well, a lot of people think it's going to be the Stephen Myron, who, you know, President Trump just inserted to be the new Fed governor and to replace Lisa Cook. Or if she decides not to go, I guess they're just going to have another governor for a few more months, and we'll just do it that way. A lot of people believe that's what the deal is there. Scott Bessent, the current Treasury Secretary, who a lot of people wanted for the job, said he's not interested. He wants to stay at the Treasury. I don't blame him. As you know, like you said, I don't like the Fed. I don't like its existence. I think that there are important jobs that the Fed does, but it doesn't need to be a Federal Reserve Board with the Fed chairman and voting and all that kind of stuff. I think that there are some things the Fed can do that we should keep, but for the most part, I don't think we need this position.
All right. Well, here's a question for you. It feels like a little bit of a Dr. Phil question at first. Did you ever have someone treat you like dirt, Jake? Say you were destroying their world, only to have them beg you to stay when you started walking out the door? It does sound obviously like some sort of domestic abuse situation, but you say this is about Gavin Newsom. What? Talk to us.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom and those Democrats in California for years have been bashing the oil and gas industry, not just giving it a hard time, David. I'm talking about basically saying that they're evil, that they're destroying the world. They put it in the curriculum of their schools, freaking out kids for decades. But now that the oil and gas companies are starting to leave the state, Chevron famously left a couple of years ago, they're giving them some sweetheart deals. Gavin Newsom is fast-tracking some oil drills, licenses for them. I mean, this is just so pathetic. You know, if they feel like they can browbeat a major industry which not only employs a lot of people in their state, but keeps their state running. They still haven't been able to replace fossil fuels with enough wind and solar and all the other stuff to help replace it. They still need all this stuff. Even if everyone has EVs, you still need a coal-fired or a natural gas-fired plant, electrical plant to power these things. So this is it really feels like basically a dysfunctional relationship with like a boyfriend who beats up a girlfriend, treats her, like dirt. And then when she walks out the door, he gets on his hands and knees, buys her some flowers, buys her a ring. If I could channel, with some of those talk shows, honey, get out of that relationship. I think that they should leave those oil companies before it's too late, because they're going to do worse things to you.
Yeah, for sure. Breaking news: Gavin Newsom is unprincipled and hypocritical. All right. I guess finally, Jake, you have a major disclosure. Everyone needs to know if they're following this H-1B visa, a visa fee story. It's on a major news site or mainstream channel. What's happening? What's going on?
Yeah, if for some reason you leave Real America's Voice, which you shouldn't at any time in the day, to read the Wall Street Journal or to watch CNBC or watch NBC or any of those news organizations and read their reports about or watch their reports about the H-1B visa story, you really you really shouldn't. Because all of these operations, I think, are being incredibly unethical. I know this from personal experience. I worked at a lot of these mainstream outlets. They are big-time abusers of the H-1B visa program. They bring in people, especially to work the back office type work for their news websites using the H-1B visa. And a lot of these websites, not only were they flourishing, but they were created in the first place by American tech-savvy workers. There was no need. In other words, the H-1B visa, which they say, oh, we just need this because there's not enough tech-savvy Americans who know how to do this work. It's demonstrable. I mean, you couldn't have a more tangible proof that that isn't true when you take a look at the websites of these news stations and channels and newspapers that were around well before they started to abuse the H-1B visa. A couple of places that I worked about 10, 11 years ago brought in a massive number of people from foreign countries because they could pay them less, they could work them longer, and they hold their visa over their heads. So don't complain or we'll send you back home. They all, if you see any story about an H-1B visa that doesn't include, maybe even in italics, a little disclaimer saying NBC employs X amount of H-1B visa workers at this price. The Wall Street Journal does. ABC News, CBS, they all need to be disclosing because it's really, I think it's an ethical breach for them not to do so. Of course they won't do it, so I'll do it for you. They should not be reporting on this without telling everyone how much they are abusing the program as well.
I'm glad you pointed that out. The Jake Novak disclaimer for the networks and for the publications. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. Time to go back to Terrence in Denver. He's got the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange, and it is sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
We're less than a minute from the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Momentarily, you'll hear the applause, and then we'll wait for the bell to ring and the markets to officially open. I can tell you that pre-market trading has looked pretty good so far. It's been all of the major indices have been in the green, so hopefully it will stay that way once the markets officially open. There at the bottom of your screen, you also see that we're continuing to watch the situation in Dallas where someone opened fire on a Dallas ICE facility. We're hearing that at least 3 detainees were shot, but no ICE agent shot. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The markets are now officially open. You hear the bell ringing. So let's take a look at the markets themselves and see how things are faring now that the markets are officially open. And it looks like everything is good. The S&P 500, the NASDAQ, as well as the Dow Jones, all remaining in the green at the moment to opening this day of trading. We, of course, will continue to monitor it for you and let you know how things are looking once this day of trading ends. But so far, so good on the markets. When inflation jumps and when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think, well, maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Whether as a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during a global instability, or just for sensible diversification, the Birch Gold Group believes that every American should own physical gold, and that's why they've created something special. Until September 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, the Birch Gold Group is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and to start the process, request an information kit now simply by texting the word America to the number 989898. Plus, the Birch Gold Group can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to $10,000. The Birch Gold Group is the only precious metals company that so many Americans trust, as do their tens of thousands of customers. So make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate of up to $10,000 when you buy by September 30th. You've got about another week left. Text the word America to the number 989898. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, President Trump sounds off on climate change at the United Nations, and he scorches the General Assembly. That story is next.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
From Muskegon, Michigan. Why do you love Rav?
Because we've become family. All those Rav live chatters and me.
I'm Andy M., and I love Real America's Voice, where my voice counts and your voice counts. That is America's Voice.
It's Stacy from Texas. I watch Real America's Voice because I need to learn, and I know I can get the truth through RAV. God bless everyone, and always love the children. Amen.
Hi, Pat from Muskegon, Michigan. Why do you love RAV?
Because we've become family. All those Rav live chatters and me.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Dr. Gina. Thanks for joining us this morning. We invite you to hop over into our conversation on YouTube, Getter, and Rumble. It's time now to take the political pulse of America. The beat today, global warming and a global warning. President Trump did not mince words at the UN yesterday. He ripped the climate agenda to shreds, called it a hoax, a fraud, a global scam. Listen.
It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong.
A storm warning for the global elite, to be sure. Joining us now with insight, Mark Morano, executive editor of ClimateDepot.com. Welcome. You know, he didn't mince words, and I tell you what, I never thought I'd see a day. If you think back, even just in the last few Republican presidencies, they tiptoed around this issue. They didn't really ever call them out. President Trump excoriated them, did he not?
Yes, and you make a great point. You can go back to when global warming was an issue with George H.W. Bush back in the early 90s. He was so into the agenda, he went down to Rio and signed an Earth Summit treaty, which got us into the whole mess. And then you had George W. Bush, who accepted all the UN claims. You had John McCain, Mitt Romney. Donald Trump stands alone among presidents. And what he did face to face in the UN General Assembly in New York City yesterday was a historic milestone. This is one of the greatest speeches. It will live in infamy to the UN agenda and to the climate activists. He literally laid out that the United States is changing and flipping the script, changing the narrative on the UN, calling it a con, a scam, green fraud, talked about how the entire agenda has empowered China and removed the entire West industrial base for no benefit to the environment. So it was a historic speech that I think future historians and generations will look upon. This was an epic moment in the Trump presidency, and he blows away Trump's first term, all of his actions. And I can get into that, how he's going for permanence this time by going after key things in the climate agenda.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that. Hey, Mark, Trump torched those green policies. They're sold as planet savers, but they really are job shippers to China and a whole lot worse. Take a look at this.
The primary effect of these brutal green energy policies has not been to help the environment, but to redistribute manufacturing and industrial activity from developed countries that follow the insane rules that are put down to polluting countries that break the rules and are making a fortune. They're making a fortune.
So, Mark, I'd like to get your take on that, but kind of an overall question, kind of going back to what you first answered here, which is, it was an amazing speech. We're all in agreement on that. But like these countries, they're not going to take are they really going to take the United States lead on this? They're not going to do that. I mean, they're warped. I mean, they're literally bought into this religion, if you will. So how does it make it it's historic what he did and amazing, but I just wonder about the tangible result. Like it's just words at the UN at this point, because these countries are like, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. They're not going to follow him.
Well, good question, because I would have agreed with you 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 8 years ago. But a few things have changed. A, we've been in this green agenda now in earnest for the last 20 years. Europe is ahead of us. Europe has already had a huge election last summer in 2024 where they paused the Green New Deal in Europe. They had a farmers' rebellion against the net zero UN policies. The German new prime minister ran against climate. You have the rise of this in England with Nigel Farage. You have the chance of the French president Macron being ousted, and a lot of this is because of this green agenda. So it started in Europe. Carney in Canada, the new prime minister, first act as prime minister pretty much was to zero out the carbon tax. I was at the UN Climate Summit last year in Baku, Azerbaijan. Donald Trump talks to the head of Argentina. The entire Argentina delegation pulled out. So he's got a huge influence because he's at the right man at the right time to give it a little shove. And that shove is these countries investing decades to see no result other than what Donald Trump laid out. Their entire industrial bases gutted, their economic and labor forces gutted, all so they can do an accounting trick and claim they're reaching net zero, because all they end up doing is importing goods and services from China. And one last key point, Trump was right. These is against the environment. To make 1,000-pound Tesla battery, you need to dig up 500,000 pounds of material in the earth, rare earths, all kinds of minerals, and it's chiefly from China, which is then shipped across the world in diesel and placed. And the same thing with wind power. It takes cement, non-recyclable plastic, concrete. None of this is green. No one should be calling it green energy or clean energy. It's just dirty in a different way. All energy in some form is dirty to make it.
You talk about President Trump really setting the record straight. He really torched the UN over its failed prophecies. Here's some of what he had to say on that issue.
In 1982, the executive director of the United Nations Environmental Program predicted that by the year 2000, climate change would cause a global catastrophe. He said that it will be irreversible, as any nuclear holocaust would be. This is what they said at the United Nations. What happened? Here we are. Another UN official stated in 1989 that within a decade, entire nations could be wiped off the map by global warming. Not happening.
So, Mark, to the president's point, why does the UN still have credibility with some? And why are some people still buying what the UN is selling on this issue when what they've sold is obviously flawed?
It's a great question. And there's really, I mean, other than it, the reason people like what the UN claims scientifically is because it fits their political ideology, which is globalism, getting rid of national sovereignty, and fewer and fewer, more and more decisions made by fewer and fewer people. This is what the Great Reset was about. This is what the World Health Organization wants: complete control over health policy. The UN wants complete control over development and energy. And this is why. So when Trump laid out here, and I actually went back in my book, Green Fraud, I go back to 1864. Abraham Lincoln was president when we had an academic warning of climatic excess unless mankind changed his ways. It's deep wired within us to think of future doom, and the UN exploits that in comical ways. I mean, they do tipping points. You know, they've done them in the minutes, they've done them in hours, they've done them in days, they've done them in weeks, they've done them in decades. King Charles now has done the same thing. Trump calling them out was epic. And the reason this is so important, just to even go back to the question, it changes the narrative. When you have someone pushing back in polite society now at a UN conference, this changes hearts and minds across the country. This was Charlie Kirk's mission on college campuses. Voice it, debate it, say it, flip the narrative, and you have an impact, and people start being swayed, and you impact them. And that's what Donald Trump's doing. It's never been tried by a U.S. president before, so this is historic.
All right, well, it didn't stop. Here is Trump shredding the UN's prophecies of doom. Countries gone by 2000, they're still here. Take a listen.
You know, it used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world, but then it started getting cooler, so now they could just call it climate change, because that way they can't miss. It's climate change, because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion.
I know for me, Mark, I know for me, this is very personal. My dad, this was the single issue my dad and I debated the most. He was a big liberal, left his money even to environmental causes. And so, Mark, you've been at this, though, even longer than me. This had to be your Super Bowl.
It was. I started on this whole environmental reporting actually for Rush Limbaugh's TV show back in 1992, and I actually worked in the U.S. Senate Environment Committee. So what Donald Trump did, I was at the Johannesburg, South Africa 2002 Earth Summit, and I was publicly demanding and urging the Bush administration to show up at the summit and give a speech condemning the whole UN climate agenda. Of course, the Bush administration, I was naive enough to think they would consider it. There was no consideration of doing that. And what Donald Trump said there was exactly right. If you can go back, and there was actually a study going back to about 1850, every 30 years or so, they would shift between, we have to worry about cooling, we have to worry about warming. It reached its crescendo in the 1970s. Before fossil fuels caused global warming, fossil fuels caused global cooling. In the 1970s, they warned of tipping points. They warned of extreme weather caused by climate change. They wanted to geoengineer the climate because they thought our pollution was blocking out the sun and creating a ice age, a new ice age. You can watch Walter Cronkite, you can watch ABC News, you can see CIA reports, Newsweek, Time, all warning of that impending global cooling scare.
But we do still see some of that. We still see those, streams.
They
up
say
in
global warming will get so bad it'll create global cooling, or something. They do all kinds of stuff now. All these they're computer models. They just sit around and make up fake scenarios, and they scare themselves with it.
So, Mark, what's the 30-second pitch for people that are out there in our audience today who are coming into contact with a liberal relative or someone with blue hair? And what is that 30-second pitch to explain why, indeed, climate change, air quote, climate change, is a big old hoax and you shouldn't buy into it? How do you dumb it down in 30 seconds and really convince people? Because honestly, after about 30 seconds, people are tuning out. They're going back to their lives. They're not going into PDF documents here.
Great question.
You need an elevator pitch. Well, I've always said that climate change is not the control. CO2 is not the control knob of the climate. There are hundreds of factors that influence it. The idea that we can control one variable of the climate, carbon dioxide, and then say, the storms are going to be much better. Every metric, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, wildfires, drought, there's no change in extreme weather. You see they're declining or steady in the last 100 years, 50 years, according to peer-reviewed studies. And no matter what you believe, if we had to rely on the UN and the Green New Deal to save us, we'd all be doomed, because ever since the UN got involved, carbon dioxide has continued to rise. But guess what? The climate didn't notice. The weather hasn't noticed. There is no extreme weather. Sea level's not accelerating on every metric. So people need to be calm. The Earth has been around for a long time, and CO2 levels much higher. We've had ice ages, and there's no indication that we're in any kind of climate catastrophe. That's the best I can do in the time here, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mark.
Mark Morano, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks a lot.
Up next, fake smiles, real bullies. The Biden bubble just burst from the inside out. Former staffers are now turning on each other as the White House cult is exposed. The details just ahead as American Sunrise continues. Right back.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a real voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Hey guys, my name is Jeff. I'm from Massachusetts. I love RAV because of the free speech and the political wranglings that go on in the chat every day.
I'm Lou, MAGA pilot from RAV's Gator Chat here in beautiful Trump County, Florida. The best place for real news is Real America's Voice.
Hello, this is Kirk. Why do I love RAV? You ever talk to the hosts? You can do that on RAV. And the RAV family, they'll talk back to you too. Let you know what's going on. Take care.
It's Mama Love in northern Minnesota. You know, a collective voice is much louder than a single voice. Thanks, RAV, for giving us a place to chat and connect. See y'all in chat.
Let's spill some tea.
All right, let's spill some tea, fueled by Artillery Tea Company, the only America First veteran-owned tea brand. And their mission, maximize flavor with whole leaf blends and chemical-free tea bags. No junk, just real tea. And here's the tactical advantage. Each bag brews twice. Just go to artilleryteaco.com and use the code LIBERTY for 20% off your first order. Again, that's artilleryteaco.com. Premium tea, mission-driven, and brewed for the brave. Time now to spill some tea, and in the cup today, a former Jill Biden spokesman is exposing what he calls a cult-like atmosphere inside the Biden White House. Michael LaRosa says the Biden bubble was ruled by, quote, mean girls and filled with bullies. In a scathing Fox News op-ed, LaRosa even credits Vice President Kamala Harris, of all people, for shining a light on those bullying tactics in her new book, which just hit shelves yesterday. It's a rare look inside Biden world, and it raises serious questions about the culture surrounding the former president. Let's bring in Terrence, David, and Dr. Gina to discuss here. Terrence, want to go to you first. I think the auto pen was the Regina George of the Biden White House, just going off this Mean Girls analogy here.
Yeah, no doubt. And we're continuing to see more and more reports, more and more books coming out about the Biden-Harris White House and the interactions and who liked who and who didn't like who. It seems that there was, and I think we probably all saw it ourselves and knew it, that there was lots of dysfunction. And now that dysfunction, I think, is continuing to come to light more and more, David.
Yeah, there's dysfunction in every White House, every single White House. I really don't care about this at all, this story. I mean, the way I see it, Joe Biden enjoyed Denny's in Delaware, Gina.
This is just like the best game of hot potato you've ever seen. Like, everybody just wants to pass off responsibility for all of the horrific things that happened to our America during the Biden administration. That's what we're seeing here. Everybody's going to be talking about everybody. And you know what? We all predicted this. We all talked about while it was happening. We were all on this show saying, just wait till this is over. The tell-alls are going to be amazing. You know, but David makes a point. Tell-alls always happen after every administration, but there's been no administration quite as completely screwed up as the Biden administration.
But to your point, Dr. Gina, that you've made really for a long time now, there's got to be some accountability. So the tell-alls are coming out. We're hearing a lot. We're finding out a lot. Or I'll put it this way. We're getting confirmation on things that I think we all already knew. But at some point in time, it seems like there's got to be accountability. The ball was dropped. There was dysfunction. And somebody's got to pay for it, even if it's just in the court of public opinion, it seems.
No, you make a great point. I think it's not just the court of public opinion. I don't think that's enough, Terrence. I think you're right. I think people need to spend hard time. I really do. And I can't help but remember how many of our J6ers were already in prison without trials, many of them, by this time in the Biden administration. Everyone was penalized. Look, lots of us had penalties. I couldn't fly. That was a small price to pay compared to what others went through. We were audited. We were debanked. Eric Trump, in my interview with him, actually made a great list of all the things that happened just to his family. But a lot of those things happened to patriots, too. A lot of people couldn't fund their YouTube channels anymore. People were deplatformed. It's just, the list goes. We were all censored. List goes on.
David, I'd love to get your perspective. You said well and kind of dropped your head.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Which leads me to believe that you kind of disagree with me.
No. Here's the thing. I think there should be consequences for these folks. But I've been around this town a long time, and I just don't think there's going to be.
There better be.
I really don't.
There better be.
No, but guys, really seriously, if any administration is going to do it, it's going to be this administration. There's no doubt about that, obviously. And you might see some folks, get potential charges. I think when all of it's said and done, there's too much deep state operation in this town to actually get it through to the finish line. I think there's going to be a lot of torpedoes. And remember, we got great people in place starting at the top, but the problem is you got a lot of people that are still there. There are a lot of not moles. There are just a lot of people that are just bad actors. And I know Sergio Gore's done a great job in terms of when he was head of personnel. Charlie Kirk was working with Sergio, getting MAG in place, and they've done an amazing job. But this is a labyrinth, a federal bureaucracy, and it's a labyrinth. It's crazy. And I'm telling you, there are going to be ways that they're going to slow walk this thing, and I'm not convinced. I think time's going to run out.
But David, I don't think there's ever been a public outrage like there is now. Not to this degree. Hopefully that will give them the backing they need to pave the way.
I would love it. Don't get me wrong. I would love it, but I'm an optimistic guy, but I don't see it. This town, no, I don't see it. This town.
Stay loud, audience.
Stay loud. Well,
right. 1,000,000%.
Yep. All right. Interesting discussion as always, you guys. All right. Still to come on American Sunrise, the Pope gets political as he focuses on the Trump White House. What did he have to say? Find out. That's ahead as American Sunrise continues. We'll be right back.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a real voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Hey guys, my name is Jeff. I'm from Massachusetts. I love RAV because of the free speech and the political wranglings that go on in the chat every day.
I'm Lou, mega pilot from Rav's Gator Chat here in beautiful Trump County, Florida. The best place for real news is Real America's Voice.
Hello, this is Kirk. Why do I love Rav? You ever talk to the hosts? You can do that on Rav. And the Rav family, they'll talk back to you too. Let you know what's going on. Take care.
It's Mama Love in northern Minnesota. You know, a collective voice is much louder than a single voice. Thanks, Rav, for giving us a place to chat and connect. See y'all in chat.
Introducing the limited edition God Bless the USA Bible, inspired by Lee Greenwood's hit song and the most recognized patriotic anthem in America, God Bless the USA. The God Bless the USA large print leather-bound King James Bible also contains America's founding documents, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance, along with a handwritten chorus to Lee Greenwood's song, God Bless the USA. With its large print and slim design, this Bible invites you to explore God's Word anywhere, anytime. The God Bless the USA Bible makes the perfect gift and cherished family heirloom keepsake to pass on to future generations. Designed for an easy reading experience in the trusted King James Version translation, this large print Bible is perfect to take to church, Bible study, work, and for traveling. Order yours today at GodBlessTheUSABible.com.
God bless the USA.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. It's time now for our Moments of Faith, brought to us by Lee Greenwood and the God Bless the USA Bible. In focus today, Pope Leo XIV is speaking out. In his first in-depth interview since his election in May, the Illinois-born pontiff, the first American pope in history, addressed the state of our nation, the political climate, and how he envisions working with President Trump. The Pope did expand on his conversation with Vice President J.D. Vance and said it focused on human dignity. To discuss more, let's bring in the rest of the American Sunrise team. Dr. Gina, want to go to you first on this one. You know, President Trump did have a chance to meet Pope Francis when he was still alive. I think it'd be really interesting to see Trump meet with Pope Leo, given that he's the first American pope.
Yeah, I've been waiting for him. Emily, has he said anything yet about Charlie?
Pope Leo?
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything directly about Charlie. He has been condemning all of the political violence specifically, but violence that we've been seeing in the United States.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I'm kind of waiting for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, me too. I'm surprised he hasn't said anything. I mean, this isn't just an America situation, if you will. I mean, this has been felt all over the world. So that's a little surprising to you, Bates.
Yeah, it is a little surprising that he hasn't spoken out. I am curious to see what his, for lack of a better word, administration, his reign, his rule is going to look like, and how involved he's going to be in U.S. politics. Obviously, he's the Pope of all Catholics, but since he's an American, I think the expectation is that he is truly involved.
I'm sorry, I don't want to run over you, but I got to say goodbye to everybody. War Room at Mex, go boldly now. Live the truth, everybody.
I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever. And also, selfishly, I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against my life, my wife, my kids, my coworkers because of what I choose.